Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Pork and Bean Show, starring Pork Cunningham and the world's handsomest man, Frank Baines. Sit back, relax, and enjoy as we take you on a deep dive into the enigma known as SASQUATCH and other paranormal phenomena.
It's a hard world to get a break in, and the good thing haven't taken. But girl, there are ways to make certain these pay. Oh, I'm dressed in these rags, I will sable someday. Hear what I say, I'm gonna ride the serpent. No more time spent sweating rent. Hear my command, I'm breaking loose. It ain't no use me down. Stick around, but baby, remember, it's my life and I'll do what I want. It's my life and I'll think what I want. Show me I'm wrong, have me some time, but someday you'll treat me real fine. Now there'll be women and a fortune who just want to mother orphans. Are you gonna cry when I'm squeezing them dry? Taking all I can get, no regrets. When I openly lie, I love the money. Believe me, honey, that money. Can you believe? I ain't no saint, no complaints. So girls, throw me out, any doubt. And baby, remember, it's my life and I'll do what I want. It's my mind and I'll think what I want. Show me I'm wrong, have me some time, but someday you'll treat you real fine.
So Fred, yeah, just call him my guy.
Got it. Hi, I'm Frank Oliver Beans.
He always tries to screw up my introduction. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Pork and Bean Show. My name is Pork Cunningham, and I'm here with my distinguished, honorable co-host, the world's handsomest man, Frank Oliver Beans. And we're here today with a kind of a little round table. We've got an anonymous fellow here, Mr. Fred Smith, and Chris Leask is back with us again. So how are you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
Good. We're waiting for one, maybe two more people, but
That's
I can't
fine.
seem to find the show. But
Chris, you did a show with what's that guy's name? Chris Matthew, the Forbidden Knowledge. Did you do that?
no, Forbidden Knowledge. I don't think so.
Forbidden Knowledge News? No.
No.
Oh, I thought you did. Maybe it was somebody else.
Yeah.
Must
I
be
think
me.
Huh?
Must be me.
Was it you?
I'm doing a show with him in November.
With who?
Chris Matthew or Matthau?
Matthew. Oh, yeah, that's good. That's good. He's a good guy.
Yeah. Well, I saw you on there, and I said, well, if they're going to have you on there, they'll have anybody.
Well, his standards are low. Yeah, his standards are low.
I said his standards got to be low, so I guess I should get on there too. So how are you gentlemen today?
Good.
Good. Okay. Mr. Leask, how you been? Since
I'm doing well.
good. So why doesn't
Fred.
we'll start with Fred because we've talked to Chris before, and we're going to get more. We're going to be talking to you, obviously, of course. We'll get more into your story again.
Yeah.
Because actually, we did your own show. That's right. So, Fred, how did you get started in this wild, wacky, wonderful, beautiful world of the Sasquatch?
Well, a very interesting question. About 3 or 4 years ago, one of the organizations I belonged to, Starborn, which is UFO experiencers, every summer they had a conference. The last conference they had before COVID was in Maine, and they got the country's expert on Sasquatch, Kawani Lapsaritis, to come and give us a lecture. He gave us a 2-hour lecture. There were 200 people there from our group and anybody that wanted to join in. And he actually said in the middle, he said, 1 year I got cancer. And he's written a book. He was selling his book, and he was selling another book, a channeled book by a Native American shaman, Lakota shaman from Sasquatch. I bought and read both books. And he told us that 1 year he was diagnosed as having a lethal type of cancer. So he goes up to his Sasquatch friend in the woods in Oregon, and he tells him, he said, you got to do a healing on me. So Sasquatch does a healing, and he goes back, and he finds out that he still has half his cancer. So he goes back to Sasquatch, and he tells him this, and Sasquatch, you know what he did? This is what he told us now. I can only repeat what he said. He's internationally famous. Sasquatch called in the Star Elders. They bring him up on the UFO, and they cured him. This is what he told us. So on the way back home, back to Massachusetts, I realized I felt the presence of a Sasquatch leader in my car, sitting in the right front seat. Told me his name, his family members, and this and that. And ever since then, I've been communicating with him. And so has Lori Tran, exactly the same person. She was in California then. And one other person I know was communicating in Michigan, the same person. So I think he's some sort of big shot, a leader in the Sasquatch community. And he comes to me almost every day. And I have to tell you, he is the most wonderful, loving, patient. He's always in a good mood, never gets upset, always gives love, gives recommendations sometimes. He's just a great guy. And he tried to have me meet him in the woods several times, but the problem is there, you got to hike in, no trails, bushwhacking for a mile or two. And I really didn't want to do it because I felt I was going to get lost without trails and all that. So I never actually met him. But he invites me all the time. And he's just a wonderful, wonderful person. And then I started reading the books that they gave on the background. It's 50 million years old, the civilization. He was star-seeded by the same ET group that started us, but he's with the giant lemur and we with Australopithecus. And there are reports in the book anyway that in India, there's some women have mated, interbred with Sasquatch and have had human children that are very psychic, and they do it to develop psychic people that need them for the community. So Sasquatch is very psychic. He can dematerialize, shapeshift. He's always involved with he calls them the star elders, and on and on and on. So it's just wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I connect with everything you said.
I agree. That's the kind of understanding that we want to try to promote on the Pork and Bean Show, is that they're wonderful people and mostly kind and a lot of times funny.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I've got my own ancient one, and he's everything you said about your guy, and he's got a great sense of humor, and they're teachers, and they teach us about universal truths. And, you know, they don't really interfere with our free will, but they're constantly teaching me, but it's my decision what I want to, you know, where I want to take it and stuff. So yeah, I really like what you're saying, Fred.
What does he teach you?
What does RE teach me? He teaches me, well, I just wrote a book, and it's called A Sasquatch Story in My Life with the Clan of RE. And it's about a lot of my experiences. And there's always lessons with these experiences, because they show you episodes shape shifted, or where they zap you, or where they give you downloads, or where, you see them do some of their abilities that we all, people who are connected with them know they can do. So every kind of experience is a lesson, but the main thing that they teach me, and I think that this, to me, is what I'm focused on, because to me, it's the key to our transition as a human race, to get out of this, these lies and this control. Is what they're teaching me is that love is the basis of everything. We're all one, we're all connected. They don't believe in judgment. That's a lower vibrational thing. They don't believe in the separation or the line of separation. And it's just giving me an overall sense of belonging to the universe, and that everything is connected, the plants, the animals, the trees, everything. And we shouldn't do what humans have been doing for centuries, trying to put ourselves above all these things, because we're part of it. And when we put ourselves above it, then we lose the connection with it. So they're teaching me like universal truths, and a lot about who I am and who we are. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, you know what's wrong with that? It's too good. No, I mean, what you're saying is exactly, he hasn't actually taught me that, but it's exactly what I feel that he feels. I always feel I'm in the presence of an expanded, more enlightened person.
Yeah.
And it feels wonderful, like I'm a little in heaven,
Absolutely.
That's a good way to describe it, because they're just a higher energy person, and that's what enlightened people are. I met 4 enlightened men and an enlightened woman in my life, fully enlightened, realized beings, and the Sasquatch are right up there with them. So
well, yeah. Well, the thing is that they have and actually, Laurel, Frank, she says I've just got to own it or whatever, because she says if I don't own it, then I'm kind of denying it. So it's not an ego thing, but I've been told by the Sasquatch that I represent them everywhere I go. So I guess I'm kind of like an ambassador for them, or not kind of like I am. And so they're teaching me things that I can relate to other people to help our situation, as a race and as people and as individuals. So, my relationship with them is a student-teacher relationship, 100%. But, I still experience their humor. They still leave me gifts. They still send me love, through energy. They still communicate with me through language, through energy language and stick language and stuff like that. But, I think the people that they contact, like you, Fred, and myself, and Chris, and Frank Oliver Beans, we're working for them in a sense, or at least
You know, it's a thing that
representing them, I would say.
I can feel my Sasquatch companion standing to the left of me. He came in now and he wanted me to give you this message. He said he loves all of us and he loves what we're saying and he wished he could be on the podcast, but for obvious reason he can't.
Well, he can. He can talk through you, and you know, if you want to relate something that he wants to say, we'd be honored. I mean, Ari talks in the podcast at times. He talks through me, you know. So, I'm getting energy. I'm feeling something. Oh boy.
Well, you know, the book that I read is wonderful. It's called Message to Humanity from the Indian shaman that channeled him. And he said just what you said. If we don't learn to live from our heart shock, we're not going to make it. And don't expect ET to save you if you're starting to destroy your planet and your society.
Yeah.
But they always talk about him as our older brother that helped get us started as a race. And a different book by an entirely different author, a woman who channels ET from Australia, said an amazing thing. I don't know if you people are aware of this, but there is a face on Mars. It's Cydonia, 19.5 degrees south.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And NASA has photographs of it if you know where to look.
I've seen it.
1,500 feet high and 2 miles long, and it looks like an Egyptian headdress. Well, you know what it said in the book? That a million years ago, when the initial creation attempt was made by ET to create the human race, genetic hybrid with Australopithecus, there were a lot of reptilians that had possessed Earth that agreed to leave. And then they changed their mind at the last minute. There was a war. And Sasquatch was enlisted by the good ET guys that helped create us. And the battle extended to Mars. And ET signed up as soldiers. Sasquatch signed up as soldiers to go to Mars. They lost a lot of people. So the good ETs made a war memorial for them. And that's what the face on Mars is. I couldn't believe it when I read that. Do you know what that says? That they sacrificed thousands of their people when we were just early in our creation to save our race. We owe our survival to Sasquatch.
That's amazing. Hey, just give me a second. We've got the other fella coming in, and I don't know if he's going to come in and his face is going to be shown, but I guess we'll take a chance, eh?
Just turn his camera off as soon as you see it. Put the participants open. So Fred, that reminds me, Sasquatch have always stepped up to mankind whenever they're in their darkest moments. If you look at the Hindu, sacred texts of the Ramayana, that's all about a war. So like the war in Lemuria, where the Sasquatch people, they were called the Mountain Monkey Men, stepped in to help Lord Ram fight these demons that were over on Sri Lanka. So there's a long history of them helping humanity in times of great peril to the earth.
Yeah. Hey, Dennis, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm good. Sorry about being late. I wasn't watching the time.
Is that your real name, or do you want me to change it?
Oh, no. That's my first name and where I live.
Oh, okay. There
that.
you go. There you go. Well, then you should be fine.
Yep.
Okay. So how you doing?
Oh, say again?
How are you?
Oh, fine. We live in a really messed up world at this point, which I'm super aware of, having done a couple of hours of research every day. But
just one thing, Dennis and Fred, if you're talking about how we've gone out to meet with the Sasquatch, don't tell where.
Yeah,
I'd rather not the location.
Yeah. Dennis, so with this world or whatever, like one thing the Sasquatch have taught me is that no fear. I have a general sense that things are going to change and they're going to get good.
Yeah,
and the Sasquatch gave me that knowing, and it's just like when you have no fear is control. So when we're controlled by fear, by division, by stuff like that. But when you don't have any fear, you can't be controlled, and that's one of the main lessons among others, I was talking with Fred about that the Sasquatch are trying to teach us. So I'm optimistic that we're going to come out of these dark times, and we are creators, so we create our own future. So as I wrote in my book, if we're creating our own future, then I'm going to create a future that I want instead of living in fear and creating that reality. So
we're kind of like children in a sandbox, so they're creators too,
Well, I hear you loud and clear, and I'm also optimistic for those of us who have chosen the path of light. I am concerned, if you're aware of Dolores Cannon's work, Three Waves of Volunteers, The New Earth, Convoluted Universe, and actually some other books as well. She talks about a split in reality where a portion of people basically stay in 3D reality and another portion go into a 5D reality in which things are really quite nice. And I think that's probably true based on not just her work, but others that I've read. So that's all fine, except I know so many people that have fallen for some of the nonsense going on, and I'm concerned for them, not for myself. And so it seems like there are an awful lot of people who don't understand that we're living in a densely populated universe, that we have other beings on Earth besides ourselves, and that they've pretty much accepted the lies that the mainstream media has been telling them.
Yeah, I agree. Well, but I mean, we're all on our own individual soul journey, and so and we're eternal beings. That was another big knowing that I have for the
Did you say we're eternal beings?
I didn't say turtle beans. I said eternal beings. So I mean,
sometimes I feel like an eternal being.
So this reality is just a drop in the bucket of realities and our infinite self. So these people are just, they're just going to learn this lesson at this time. And so, yeah, you don't want to lose your loved ones or whatever, but they're kind of just on the path they're on. So,
well, you know what they say in the channel books, and there are so many of them that say the same thing. We're living in a state now where the children born in the last few years and in the future are of a higher spiritual vibration to pick up the level of humanity. And every one of these channel books, from the good ET, Advanced Civilization, the Arcturians, the most advanced in the galaxy, 100 million years old. They're one of the groups that create. We have a piece of DNA from 1,000 different intergalactic civilizations, codons from 20. I think they know a little more about what's going on than we do. Every single one of them calls us galactic royalty, and the only experiment ever done like this in the cosmos, meaning other universes as well. We have the biggest spectrum of emotions, the most intense emotionality, and they say if we can make it as a race, we will be the acclaim and the herald of the cosmos. This is directly quoting from them. Now, when you think about that, and suppose let's jump ahead a few hundred years, there's got to be a time, and they all say we're going to make it now, maybe a Pyrrhic victory, but we'll make it. So eventually it's going to happen that we're going to realize who we occupy this planet with. The peoples of the inner earth and higher dimension, Sasquatch, and the star elders, ET. Now, only one of them is living on the surface with us, and that's Sasquatch. Now, I always wonder, I can't figure this out. How would the group of humanity relate to Sasquatch if they all knew he was here and a more advanced being? To me, that's quite a shift. And I have a lot of trouble trying to envision that. All of us can as light workers, but what about the rest of everybody? How is that going to happen? And it's eventually going to have to happen because he can't stay in hiding forever. And he is our big brother. He's not, I don't think he's supposed to stay in hiding forever.
No, I don't think
What do you think?
100 monkeys. 100 monkeys, that's what's going to do it. All of the people like us are out there rattling the airwaves. And right now, that there's a Sasquatch candy, Sasquatch coffee, Sasquatch, coolers. There's this stuff is seeped into the culture, and we just keep going talking about Sasquatch. And at one point, everybody's going to go, "Oh yeah, Sasquatch has always been around," and that's the way it'll go. Just like disclosure, we've had disclosure for the ETs for 50 years, and so there's the people who know about the ET contact and the upgrades and all that kind of stuff. It's no big deal to them. And then there's almost everybody now knows that the ETs are real, they're around. So it's going to be like that. It's going to be no issue.
Well, I
The
think
thing is, but Sasquatch lives on the surface with us, and he's been here longer than we. So how are we going to relate to him? Are we going to make them citizens? Are they going to come out of hiding? They're going to have their own country or what? I just can't imagine.
Well, Fred,
I think we're just going to be brothers. It's going to be a conscious shift. I think.
Fred, since your friend is in the room with you, ask him what they perceive as the path to living together openly.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, I think what he's thinking is he has to play it by ear. They don't have a set plan. He knows it's going to happen, but he has to adjust his situation to ours. It's like, how do we make world peace? We used to belong to the Galactic Federation of Worlds when it was first created. There you have to have one world government and world peace. Can you imagine having one world government and world peace now? I mean, I think that's the way he thinks also. Got to play it by ear to see how we go, what he can do, this and that. But personally, it's just my own theory that I think he's going to be part of the global civilization eventually.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is one of my biggest lessons with the Sasquatch is that they have shown me that time is not linear for them and when we're on the other side and stuff. It's just a human concept or whatever. So, the fact that they're reaching out to us means that they already know that we're going to come out of it, at least, some of us. So, I mean, they've proven to me in so many examples that they know what I'm thinking, what I'm going to do, years before I even formulate the thought. And they've shown me in many, many ways, like, with their stick writing, with their glyphs is a rudimentary way, or not really rudimentary, but one way, like boots on the ground way, is that, they've shown me that the meaning that I come up with for those messages that are personal between me and them, they have already been communicating with me according to that meaning years before I even come up with it myself. So they've proven many, many times in many different ways that, the linear nature of time, like we think of it, is not how they operate.
Well, Pork, I have a question. Do they have access to looking glass technology or something similar so that they can they look at the probable futures?
I don't know how they do it, but it's just that I think all the timelines are happening at once.
Sure.
That's what I think it is. Because my clan leader, Ari, has told me, and he actually told a guest on this show that confirmed it for me, that he's an ancient one. He knows every incarnation or lifetime he's ever had in the present. He's aware of it because that's the nature of nonlinear time.
Yeah, that's where we're headed, as I understand it, too.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, total.
How about, so Fred, I was just going to say, if what's your guy's name? Did you want to give us his name?
He specifically asked me not to mention his name.
Okay. Well,
I would love to.
okay. Well, we don't have to mention his name, but how about I'm extending him the invitation that if he wants to pipe in with anything that he wants to contribute or talk about, please do. We're very honored to have him, and Ari is very honored to have him here too. And I just got a confirmation on that.
Well,
So-
just when you mentioned that, he just telepathically told me, he knows your guy, he knows RE.
Oh yeah. Oh my
They're
God.
friends.
I'm just got a full body rush.
Woo. Yay!
Well, and yeah, he knows
All
RE.
one, all connected. That's the game.
He knows that RE is a good man too.
You know, if in my idea, if he became, instead of a trophy animal, a real part of the civilization of Earth, do you know how that could expand the human race and help us? Oh, it would be just wonderful, you know, but we would have to pretty much have world peace in order for that to happen. Because otherwise people would try to militarize them, you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I think we're going through a shift though, because they explained to me that, like every thought and action, like when people say, well, what can I do? I'm powerless. What can I do? That's not true, because the universe is like a spider's web. We're all connected, and every thought and action that we take vibrates and resonates with everything else. And so if we keep putting out these positive thoughts and living with these higher vibrational ideas and heart-centered or whatever, it is going to affect everybody in some ways. So, I mean, that's the best work that we can do, is by speaking of this, by living it. And, basically.
And those who meditate, like Frank and me and some others, every time we do, we put out that spiritual energy all around.
Yeah.
That affects a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my Sasquatch friend just mentioned, just when you said that, Pork, that if the five of us wanted to have a meditation in the woods somewhere remotely and call him in, he would materialize for us physically.
Wow.
Because he really likes us, all of us. I get the feeling he knows every one of us.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
absolutely. I'm getting that confirmation too. If you are known by one Sasquatch clan, they all know you. And if you're a friend of Sasquatch, they all know you basically. So
I was shown that they actually, of all the people who are interested in Sasquatch, I was shown that there's around 1,000 Sasquatch that are actually actively monitoring around 4 million people who are, in Sasquatch groups, who watch Sasquatch videos and are coming along. So they're like watchers. That really kind of shocked me to know that they are actively engaged in and monitoring and promoting people's evolution on that scale.
Yeah.
I'm part of several online meditations, and I can say that occasionally the Sasquatch will join in, and I feel like they're all huddled in here and meditate, and the vibration gets so intense that I can't talk. It's like it's interesting.
Well, you know what? Couple of things.
That's a good meditation.
In the last couple of weeks, I'm a holistic doctor, part-time, and a lot of the patients I see are very spiritual, and a certain spirit comes into the room without speaking, but a famous archangel, and he always gives a very simple message to the patient, me to tell them about their future, something very strongly positive. Well, in the last 2 weeks, you know who joined in also? The Sasquatch came in with the archangel.
Wow.
So to me, that means they're in league with the highest spiritual elements of the galaxy, of the universe as well. And
Sure.
I'm sure that, if they're always in touch with the ET, they call them the Star Elders, it's got to say something. It's got to say something.
What did you call them, Frank? Was it Earth Spirit Archangels, or what was your term?
Frank? Oh,
No.
I call them Archangel Earth Spirits.
Yeah. Well, I think that's accurate.
And they're Archangel class Earth Spirits. And that's one of the main reasons they're not afraid to be seen by us, but they want to be working from behind the scenes. so that we have the illusion or the impression that we're guiding our lives, that we're evolving naturally. But we get poked all the time. That's what these great awakening things are, where one day you'll just feel all this energy and new understandings come, and you know that's energies that are working from behind and within, and that's where they're most comfortable. That's why they don't need to be named, they don't need to be seen, and yet to them that's how they do their work, from behind the scenes, from within the soul, and they just kind of influenced by little nudges and little energy upgrades from time to time. So it's actually pretty magic, in my opinion. I'm very comfortable with not having connection, or mind speak, or a 3D visualization of them or anything like that. I just know they're around all the time, and, and they're doing their work.
I've had that stuff, but I agree with Mr. Beans. I think it's that's exactly how they want to work. I mean, when I first time I saw RE in the flesh, it was like a unbelievable experience. But I realized that all the lessons that I had leading up to that were far more important than actually seeing them. Because for me, for instance, I get downloads, and then I just have a really big, broad knowing, and I don't know how I know it, but they just give me a knowing, and I know like universal things and stuff, and it's it's just done with energy, right? And I guess I just trust that, because they're guiding us in a way that as a teacher student, but there's also free will involved, so they don't go too far over the line, because free will is about our soul advancement or whatever too, so we have to maintain that.
They don't give you something you're not ready for. They're really, really cautious on that side. They're very conservative.
Yeah, and I also found that they won't work with you past your fear level.
Yeah,
have
that's
you seen them
absolutely true.
physically, Pork?
Yes, I have.
Wow. Well, my Sasquatch contact is a Red Sox fan, and he's got a Boston accent.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, because I like the Yankees. I wonder how they're doing tonight. But yeah, I mean, I've seen them in the physical. I've seen them materialize out of thin air, walking across my path in the forest. I had one. Well, I mean, not one. It was RE. I had him appear out of a cloud of smoke in my room one time.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I've seen them in many different forms. I've seen them in like the predator form, walking around, like that shimmery kind of water, kind of semi-transparent form. Of course, orbs. Just amazing, actually. Yeah.
But the other thing is, I thought about, when you think of the big picture, you realize Sasquatch was here millions of years before we were. And then we were created. They chose this planet to create us, knowing that the peoples of the inner earth were already here. These were escaped ETs from a war in the galaxy, good ETs, and Sasquatch. And then they bring us here. So that's got to be a plan where there's got to be a role for each one of these civilizations, eventually to all join and become united.
Absolutely.
And when you really think of, nobody knows the exact reason, but when you think about it, you say, oh, it's just wonderful, glorious heaven on earth, having all these civilizations unite when we're ready for it. We have to admit it was never an accident that we were created on a planet that already had Sasquatch and peoples of the inner earth and higher dimension. They chose us to be created here with these people already present. So what a glorious future we have if we can just live it.
Oh, I believe that. So who are your Sasquatch, or who is your Sasquatch guide saying created us? Because we always hear that we were created, from somebody, but who are they saying that somebody is, or can they, or will you share that?
Well, it's not Sasquatch, it's Tommy, it's the other channel books. They list the 6 major civilizations, and then there are many thousands of others, 1,000 pieces of DNA, some on higher dimensional form, some in junk DNA, from 1,000 intergalactic civilizations. But the main six, the Arcturians, the most advanced in the galaxy, 100 million years old, the Lyrans, the Syrians, the Orions, then the Andromedans. Did I say six? Those are the main group. They're all human. And they say, it's funny, in there are several channel books from the Arcturians. These are internationally famous psychics. And you know what they said? They said there are 85 million human Arcturian hybrids walking the surface of the earth at any time. And a lot of hybrids around. I know a few. Some know, some don't. They say most of the hybrids don't know who they are. But I know I've had a past life dream of living on another planet, which was very, very different than here psychically. And other people.
I think those kind of dreams are real, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I know a woman, professional psychic, used to live here, moved to Arizona. Now she's back in Virginia, and she was taken up on board once, and she saw some people walking down the hallway on the craft. 10 years later, she married that man. I mean,
wow.
Coincidence? I mean,
no, there is no coincidence
like that.
Yeah.
So
what was the purpose of creating this?
Well, I don't think anybody really knows, but they just say that we will be a legend in the universe if we can live our true destiny. To me, my own personal opinion is that because of our depth of emotion and compassion, this and that, we will probably be advocates for other civilizations in trouble, like going through what we're going through now, you know? Maybe like ombudsmen and helpers, a little like Sasquatch is for us. And they say there are two types of civilizations, intelligent civilizations in the universe. Type 1, where everybody's at the same level of spiritual advancement. They live a long time. They evolve very slowly, but they hardly have any wars and they survive. And then type 2, like us, where everybody's at a different level of spiritual advancement. And they say anyway in the books that our survival level is only 50% because we have big wars, because it was an experiment done by Creator to do that. But who knows? This is so, you know, when you start reading these books, these concepts are so advanced, it's sometimes very difficult to understand some of them.
Mm-hmm.
There is somebody relatively new to the scene, Ismael Perez, and what he is saying is that we were created expressly to take on the advancement of artificial intelligence, which has been running rampant in some of the multiverse, creating big problems for organic life forms, and that the various ETs that created us did so with the understanding that we would be powerful enough beings to take on and eliminate the threat from this artificial intelligence. That actually sounds right to me. There's a little more explanation that the AI that we have right now in our Siri and various other interface is not self-conscious. About 10 years or so ago, a little more, a self-conscious version of AI was concocted. But then the next level after that is AI that can modify its own programming. And if you think about our brains and our neural networks, that we have several billions of neurons and a clock rate of, say, 100 hertz or something like that, but a much larger neural net can be made in computers on chip, and the clock rates can be in the gigahertz, which means that artificial intelligence would be capable of 1 billion times faster thinking than we have. What it's lacking, of course, is a soul. And that it still has been able apparently to create great damage in the multiverse, and we're the cure for that, as I understand it.
Yeah, that sounds interesting for sure.
Yeah, so Ismael Perez. You can look him up on Rumble and other places.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think, Chris? Do you agree with what Fred and Dennis are saying?
Everybody has a set group of ideas, and I can agree with some of them, and some I don't. I mean, Ismael Perez said the Earth was hollow, and I've been on an ET ship going to an underground cavern, and I know absolutely it's not hollow. So
Yeah.
I have to say he's wrong.
Well,
there's a few flies in the soup there.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Now there is possibility that in some other dimension set, you can have an interpenetration of another way of being and be in an inner Earth. But the notion that the whole thing is a 3D physical thing that's hollow inside, all you have to do is do the calculations of the breaking strength, compressive strength of the crust, and you find out, no, the whole thing would just crumble, it'd collapse.
Yeah, right. So in the physics of our dimension, that's not possible.
Yeah.
I don't worry about AI. I don't think that's going to be an issue. We have intelligent beings way beyond, what we think it is. Like the four elements: earth, air, fire, water. They are conscious beings. They're elementals. And they're doing a huge amount of work, and they're responsible for things like the internet and electricity and stuff like that. You can't make electricity without water and rock, without metal and copper and steam and so forth. And the intelligence of the universe is way more. I don't care how intelligence we're so. It's like a fear program. This AI is going to get you. I just don't believe it, because at some point, if the AI gets intelligent enough, it's going to start integrating with these elementals that are already on our side and promoting life and the Great Spirit. So I'm not worried about any of that kind of stuff. We've got more stuff going on behind us. Like I said, we've got just give for one example is all the people, which I think there's around 4 or 5 million people who've recorded that they've had a near-death experience. And those near-death experiences don't happen by accident or circumstance. They happen because the angels and Godhead or whoever is like looking down on these people and saying they need an upgrade. They need to change their life radically. And these angels are the superior beings that are in the human side of things. They come in there and take these people on these incredible adventures. That kind of stuff is going on. That's a team inside out. Then like Fred and Dennis were saying, there's just thousands and thousands of superior advanced races of ETs. They come here, they boost up our energy, and then they move on. They're just, I'm not worried about any kind of artificial intelligence, because eventually, actually, if it's running on electricity is consciousness, and it is consciousness from the Creator. The whole universe is based on this electromagnetism, and so I just don't have any fear of that, but there is a lot of fear mongering out there. I also don't have any fear of this DNA business. I'd like to put a kibosh on that. All we hear about is DNA upgrade and DNA upgrade. Well, when you die, right? And you all of a sudden you go through the white light, and then you start being greeted with reality. Guess what? You don't have any DNA. You're an energy being first. Everything is an energy being first, not a DNA being. And you could come, you could come back as whatever kind of shape your body's in, and it'd still be you. Because we're energy beings after we die and before we come to this planet. We're really ghosts in the shell, and this body is capable. You talk about millions and millions and millions of people in history have reached God realization, have become enlightened. They can go invisible. They can do all this kind of stuff right now in the bodies we have. So to put a limit on it and to say you got to get an upgrade first, that's not true. It's energy. It is the energy of the heart. And that's what the Sasquatch are teaching. Keep your energy going, keep your energy flowing, and that's what the ETs are showing, right?
Yep.
There's been, I don't know, about 7 to 10 million people that have calculated have been taken on craft. And when they take it on craft, they take you right through the ceiling, or take you right through the car, or they take your car with you, right? And when they do that, your body actually knows how to teleport. It's this is phenomenal. I've actually had it happen to myself. Your body knows how to do it. Your subconscious knows how to do it. All they have to do is create a little bit of an atmosphere or vibrational frequency, and you can just zip up to the craft and back down. And when people don't think about that, they're thinking, oh, and I saw an ET, and they get all excited about that. But they don't realize that their body knows how to go invisible and travel through walls, just like some of the stories you hear about Sasquatch. So I'm not worried about all the hype and the fear stuff going on. The higher beings are here, and they're doing their work, and God bless them.
Yeah, well, all this fear stuff is to distract us too from focusing on who we really are. And I mean, the upgrades that I've had, downloads or whatever, it wasn't DNA related. It was energy related. A download to me is energy, and then suddenly you just have a big, vast knowing, and that's exactly what you're talking about, Frank. So, yeah, I'm behind you on that.
In relationship to this, what I read was, and I've read this several sources, that when we were originally created as a very special race, we were induced with 12-stranded DNA to access the higher spiritual dimensions, and that we were very psychic. And then we got corrupted, and then we would, by an outside race that corrupted us down to 2-stranded, so we could be mining slaves for them. And now we're gradually going back to that 12-stranded, which enables us to be psychic and spiritual, like Sasquatch, like ET. And the other thing they say in all the channel books about ET is that even the most advanced races still have spirit guides and angels above them. Mm-hmm. The only one that doesn't is God, the great creator. And I studied with a Native American shaman for many years, and he had to orient us to his ceremonies. And he said, we pray to God, we pray to the angels, and we pray to the Star Nation. So I asked him, what do you mean by the Star Nation? He said, well, we all think we're starseed, not just American Indians, but indigenous people around the world. When it came to the ceremony where he trans-channeled spirit into his body, you have to ask questions. And they say these spirits were so advanced, they knew all your past lives, your future lives, everything. I asked him what is meant by the Star Nation, and his exact answer 25 years ago was, if you're interested in aliens, study Indians, they're almost identical. Now, do you know what that says? That verifies their thinking, their myths. And I think eventually, Sasquatch, ET, peoples of the inner earth, it's all going to become united. But it's going to take a while, because people are still stuck, as you say, in the materialistic society, just physical, this and that. And I think our country typifies that the most of all the free countries in the world. Because when I travel, Iceland, Chile, they talk about these concepts openly in public, Yeah. So who knows?
Yeah, well, the Sasquatch people have said that they don't have any abilities that we once didn't have. So, and I'm sure that that's what they're referring to is when we had those 12 strands. So how many strands do the Sasquatch people currently have? Can you ask your
I just got through saying it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with the energy or consciousness or anything. We share 95% of our DNA with a potato. So that's like saying the Earth is flat. It's it's not an issue.
No, but I'm talking about in our physical, as physical beings, we used to have
DNA is not an issue. The energy activates DNA, and it's the energy that creates. It's not the DNA. The DNA is passive receptors of energy.
I didn't say it was the DNA. but we've obviously had some of our abilities shut off. I
Yeah,
know.
that happens that's energetically it's shut off because you get told no thousands of times, and we have a predator government, we have predator religion, we have predator economic system, we have predator businesses, we have predator insurance, we have predator, right? The whole point of civilization is to make us slaves and them the gods, right? Them the authorities and the powers. And then we're like open people. Okay, you wanted us to be in this system, we go for it. But that's enough to shut down our
Really,
energy flow.
So you
the
think
only
it's just
thing
that?
limiting the only thing limiting us is our own self-perception of who we are.
That
That's true.
when they say we are gods and you are not, or you can't see God, or you can't be God. If you saw God, you'd burn up. If you can't be God, and when they say this kind of crap, we're connected, all one. You see the highest archangel, he's going to call you brother. Sasquatch will call you brother. You see the ETs, the number one thing that the ET people say is we are you, we are one. That's the reality.
Yeah.
And it's not the DNA strands that's making them different. Look at those guys behind you. They're putting out light from inside of them. That's not, those people don't have DNA. You know what I mean? Angels don't have DNA. God doesn't have DNA. That's just something that we need on this Mother Earth in order to hold our bodies in shape.
Yeah.
I think
makes perfect sense. But
I think using your mind, you can overcome any limitation of your body.
Well, or your heart, even more so.
I've often thought if they started teaching a little spirituality in the first grade, something they could accept, and a little more each grade, by the time they graduate high school, most people could be shamans. You know, we all have that, just as you say, we all have that ability, but it's been suppressed. We were created that way. And I think we're waking up now. You know, they talk about the energy from the central sun universe of God, the photon belt. We're being immersed in it now. It's waking us up spiritually. And then when that happens, it polarizes the negative and the positive, and the negative has to leave and not reincarnate here again. But we're going through the episode where that's happening. Look around what's going on in current events.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another interesting woman, Caroline Corey, who is teaching mostly kids, but some adults, on how to become telepathic, how to become telekinetic, and how to use second sight. So blindfolded, they can still walk around or bicycle around. Yeah, they're pretty interesting. But yeah, you can look her up too.
There's actually 6 or 7 different schools, small schools, where they're teaching children to be blindfolded and see, and to read with their hands or read with their body. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. I'm glad that that's out there.
Oh, excellent. I didn't know there were so many. That's great.
Well, they're small, it's just like cottage industry. They're not like big universities or anything.
So what you're saying, Frank, basically, is that we haven't been messed with at all. It's just that we've been told that we can't, that we're not.
To be energetically messed with is being messed with, lied to, told, slandered, denied, killed, destroyed, weighed, judged.
No, of course.
You name it, they throw it on us, and intimidated, threatened with life and limb, and this is look at the Spanish and the Portuguese Inquisition. That was 400 years of being threatened. Don't act psychic. Don't even talk about any hoodoo, woodoo, because we'll kill you. We'll kill you, or you'll kill your family, or kill your mother, kill your kids. And they did that for 400 years. I mean, that is enough.
But there's another factor, and that is that we have a tendency to align with groups.
Yeah.
And in those groups, we limit ourselves.
Yeah.
This is my group, and we think this way, and you're in that group and you think that way. You must be wrong and we must be right. That kind of thing. So when the Sasquatch started hitting me over the head to say we're here, I was really happy, and I said, wow, this is really incredible. And I tell people, like in my local community, yeah, they're here, and they want us to know them and all this stuff. And I thought that they would be all excited and interested and curious and say, yeah, let's let's all go try and communicate. But instead I was met with, oh, you're crazy, or they'd back away, or, it's this, they have this perception of reality and they don't want it to change. Now, whether that's out of fear or maybe even a feeling of superiority or something, I don't know, but it's very frustrating. It's hard to get through. So often I just don't talk about Sasquatch anymore unless somebody specifically asks me.
Well, when Frank's talking about, it's all energy, whatever, which I do agree with. So, but everything, it seems like the handlers or whoever, the people who have been keeping us under their thumb for centuries, it's all about lower vibrational things. Fear,
Limitation,
control, division, all taking us away from who we truly are. Because when we're on a higher vibration, like when, and we're operating on a higher vibrational level, whatever, we've got a lot of those abilities are coming to the forefront. So I don't think that we can be controlled if we realize that. And so, it's pretty obvious to the people who are trying to keep us controlled that that's how to keep us controlled, by dumbing us down with these negative emotions, these negative thoughts, these thoughts of division, thoughts of fear, distractions, all that stuff. So yeah, Frank's absolutely right.
But don't you think, I know in my lifetime, since I graduated college, the discussion we're having now, if this were made public, we'd be arrested. And I really think that it's gone slowly, but UFOs, ET, spirituality, telepathy, psychic, spirituality, I mean, that's all generally been much more exposed and more common in the general population. When I go to other foreign countries, they talk about it openly. Certain parts of this country, like Sedona, Prescott, out west, I mean, a lot more people are involved in it.
Yeah.
I think the world has really moved since I graduated college. It's slow at the pace that they can accept, but we have a lot more to go. But I think it is moving compared to what it was like in the 70s and 80s.
And I think that's because we're creating our own reality. We're putting out those thoughts and actions and getting that spider's web to vibrate, and that's why I think it is. But and it's pretty obvious, like with the First Nations or the Indigenous people schools, they, or any schools of thought and belief or whatever that disagree with the ruling powers, or the like the Roman Empire or the Roman Catholic Church or the whoever it is, anything that tries to connect us with nature and with our true self and with spiritualism, they burn books, they persecute us, they try to shut it down. That's been the game forever. So we must be onto something if they're really trying to shut us down.
And I have to tell you, when I studied with the Native American shaman, there were 5 students, 3 women and 2 men, and seeing them once a week for 4 years, get to know them like family. And these women were not particularly bright. They weren't sophisticated. 2 of those 3 women became professional psychics because of this guy. This guy's the most psychic guy I ever met. And we had homework assignments where we had to get images from clover. In the last semester, he was getting what's called Star Nation sigils. He would meditate and get telepathic information, pictures from ET, individualized for each student. We had to meditate on them. So what does that tell you? And then you learn how to speak to trees and clover and perennials, and he opened all of us up. And it's all, as you said, it's all love, it's all beauty, it's all appreciation. And it's like, gee, why doesn't the rest of the world think this way? We all have this ability. We studied with him for 4 years. What about all these shamans around the world and these Tibetan monks that do this for a lifetime? Can you imagine what they know and they're about and what they can do?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You talk about the shamans around the world. Every time the humanity has collapsed from a higher civilization, going back to being hunters and gatherers, we've lost our shamans, and the Sasquatch were there. The shamans, they go out in the woods, and they go out there to have their they go up on a mountaintop, and then they pray to the Great Spirit, they pray to the nature to become, enlightened, and to have visions, and to have power, to be able to help to become a healer. And so all around the world, the Sasquatch were there, and the Sasquatch were giving energy upgrades, and giving knowings, and giving understandings to the shamanic people. And the same thing goes for the people who want this God realization. They want to be enlightened men. They go up into the mountains, they go up into the woods, they go up into the caves, and they meditate, and they try to do their best. And the Sasquatch is there to boost them up, because the Sasquatch haven't really fallen. We've fallen, but they haven't fallen. So no matter how many times the race goes back down to primitive man and starts over again, the Sasquatch has been there with the shamans, with the healers, with the visionaries, with the psychics, to help guide them, and so do too with the star nations. They help the people who are teachers and stuff. So I just want to throw that out there, because we've been saved from being hunters and gatherers many times, and from being a very small race to the biggest races on Earth.
Hmm. Is your Sasquatch friend chipping in at all, Fred?
Oh, yes, I have to tell you, I can tell you're very psychic, because every time you mention that, he's here giving me a picture or a feeling. Like you can feel he just popped in again, and just at the end of your sentence, he said he really admires this podcast. This is the word that he's been trying to spread all along, and he loves what we're saying. He really admires the work we're doing. It's just what he wants to do.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, speak for myself and probably all of us. I mean, like, we're representing them, so we're not, when they're giving us downloads and energy downloads and teachings and whatever, it's it's not, it's powerful stuff. So of course we're speaking their truth. If you've got an actual connection like we do with the Sasquatch, they're not going to be telling you lies. Now, I do find that, as far as the core truths go, but I do find that at times they will mirror what people like, because that's not really all that important. They'll mirror what we like in some ways, and but that's separate from the core truths. Like you said, you're a guy's a Red Sox fan. Now, is he a Red Sox fan, or is he just saying that because he knows you like them?
No, I just made that up.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But my spirit guide is a Red Sox fan, and he has a Boston accent. And they play baseball in heaven? That's just a joke. One of my patients, it's just a joke, never happened. One of my patients had a near-death experience in an auto accident. He was out for 4 minutes and they revived him, but he remembered what happened. He saw himself floating up through this tunnel of light, and there was his angel on the other side. You know what his angel told him? Safe. He slid in head first. He beat the throw. Said, your best friend's pitching tomorrow.
Hey, if we're telling jokes, do you know what the monkey said when he got his tail caught in the lawnmower?
What?
It won't be long now. I don't know why that's like pretty stupid little joke, but it just cracks me up. I just find that so funny.
But I went to years ago, a friend of mine who was into this invited me to go to a lecture at Harvard Smithsonian Astrophysical Laboratory. It's in Harvard Square. It's on a lay level, and they have world-famous astronomers, usually Nobel laureates, speaking. And the name of the lecture was Beyond UFOs, Exo-Earths. That's when they had discovered planets outside the solar system. Well, the guy gave an ordinary lecture for an hour, nothing new. And then I'll never forget what he said. And this guy was world famous. He said, now I've given you the facts. Now I'm going to give my own personal theory. I think the advanced civilizations are out there and they're waiting for us to grow up to contact us. So I said to myself, here's an expert, world renowned. What does the astronomic community know that they're not telling us? I mean, that really says a lot. He couldn't be the only one that thinks that.
Oh, I think it too. That's my understanding.
Was that Dr. Rudy Shield, the astrophysicist from Harvard?
No, I think it was someone else.
Oh,
but
we have all three of us are friends with Rudy Shield, though.
oh, cool. Yeah, he's an experiencer.
Yeah, he was brought on board by John Mack.
Yeah.
You guys know Mary? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Mary Rodwell too.
You know Mary Rodwell, guys?
Yep.
Actually, I reached out to her because I was watching some of her interviews and whatever, and I reached out to her because I don't think she was cognizant of the fact that the benevolent Star Nations races and the Sasquatch people, they're kind of doing the same kind of work with people, and waking us up. And we had a good conversation. She actually did an interview with me, and it was great because that's how I see it. It's like we were saying that we're kind of like children of the universe, and it's time for us to put our big boy pants on.
Brian, did you know that go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Brian, did you know that she started to incorporate the Sasquatch stories into her talks on internationally, and it's because of you?
Well, I mean, I was drawn to talk to her. I mean, I thought that it was something that she wanted to know. So, I mean, there's no coincidences. When we connect with people, there's a reason for it.
Yeah, there was one lady from New Zealand who wrote a book about her ET experiences. Dennis, do you remember her name?
Oh, geez, yeah. No.
Can't remember.
Yeah, no, of course, I remember meeting her at Rudy's.
That's right. Well, she stayed one night in my house. And the next morning she comes down, she says, "Who was that huge 8-foot tall person in my room last night?" And I said, "Well, he's just one of the Sasquatch, because they've told me they'd protect our house. He was just checking you out to see if you're okay."
Wow.
So do you guys all go out in the field together? And
Yeah, we
have.
do.
Yeah.
It must be amazing because three guys because when one of us goes out there, and it's something, but when people are all on the same page with them go out there, it's like it's magnified. So you must have some amazing.
Fred, tell Brian and Frank about our time together when we went out to meet them at their temple.
Yeah.
Fred?
Oh, yeah. Well, let's see, there were 4 of us.
Yeah, it was 4 of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sasquatch directed us into a certain area not far from where you live. It was in the woods, couldn't be seen from the road. And I had the feeling he was starting to talk to me telepathically. And there was a group of them, not just him, but 2 or 3.
It was like 8 of them or so.
And they were they were about 100 feet away from us. They didn't want to overwhelm us. So they just stayed at a distance. They were very happy to see us there. And they talked to us quite a bit. And we had a wonderful time together. I had the feeling that the reason they didn't want to materialize was for their own protection. It had nothing to do with us. But who knows what the secret government, the Illuminati, can do. I read in a book that many of the forest fires out west are set intentionally by their laser weapons to eliminate the habitats of Sasquatch. But he's very, very careful about his survival, and because they know he can empower us, and then we can grow, and then they can't control us. So he's on the hit list.
100%. That's exactly why they want to make them out to be monsters. Exactly that, because they have their message will empower us and is the key to our transition shift, or whatever you want to say it, our conscious shift, our raising our energies, or just getting out of this fear and control. That's they have the answer. So of course they don't want them. Of course they want to represent them as monsters, and they don't want them to be known. They want to eliminate them because they're not on board with them.
Well, they're just not seeing their opportunities for barbers and hairdressers everywhere with these guys.
And let's not forget deodorant.
And plumbers for clogged drains too.
Well, actually, did you say deodorant? Actually, the females have a really, really pleasant smell. And I found that even when I'm around the males or whatever, I think, with me, I've got a little bit of a whiff or whatever, but sometimes I just think it's just a way of letting us know that they're around, because there's no smell quite like it. So
yeah, like I mean, I told you in previous podcasts that I've never smelled them other than a wet dog smell. I mean, it's not unpleasant. It's just wet dog. I mean,
I think there could be a couple of reasons. One, like I said, to let us know they're around.
Yeah.
This kind of thing is when they toss a little rock on the path highway here.
Yeah.
And in some extreme cases or whatever, like to just scare people away that they don't want hanging around them.
Well, they would put out a bad smell then, but I mean,
that's what I mean.
They've never done. Yeah, they've never done a bad smell for me. I smelled the wet dog smell 3 times, and it wasn't unpleasant, but it certainly let me know that they were there.
Well, yeah, one of the females up here had a floral perfume smell, and it was so strong that my nose, my throat, and my eyes were burning, but it was very pleasant. And then shortly after that, she gave me that love zap that I talk about. That big. Was
this out in the forest, or was it in the forest when you were out there?
Well, yeah, at that time it was, but I mean, they do just as much for me when I'm at home and energetically or whatever than when I'm in the forest. But at that particular time, yes, I was in the forest. But I know friends or whatever that have connections with them that they can smell that floral perfume or the other scent or whatever in their homes or whatever at times. So, I noticed that this guy's female, who has a scent very similar to my female, he gets the scent, and like I said, it's an indication to him that they're around. Because when you smell that right beside you, then you know for sure, right? So that's what I think. A lot of it has to do with that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they'd release that smell unless they knew you were going to smell it.
Well, they can give you any audible, visual, or sensory perception that they want, or experience that they want. I've heard what sounded like semi trucks colliding in the middle of the woods.
I heard the bulldozer in the woods. It was like,
yeah, I mean, door slamming. They can, or
trees crashing. Dennis and I heard Dennis, remember we were walking, what was the last spring, and 2 trees crashed right near us.
Yep.
The thing is that sometimes you can hear those big noises and those crashes and all that stuff, and there's actually nothing there. Nothing actually happened.
Yeah, we couldn't really tell what had fallen, but
yeah,
we heard 2 trees crash.
Well, at one of my gatherings, we had something like that, and we were talking about. Somebody said, I wish they could give us a sign." And we're all gathered around, and as soon as we said that, a big crash, and it looked like something fell from a tree, whatever, like something huge fell from a tree and made a big noise, and all these other people were going over there and looking for it, and I said, you're probably not going to find anything. but
no.
they were kind of halfway in between spiritual and the evidence kind of thing. So they were insistent that something fell and they were looking for it. And I said, you're probably not going to find anything.
Well, actually, I know of a case where we heard a tree fall, and sure enough, a tree had been pushed over. And this was right after my wife and I were walking along with our niece, and my wife says to our niece, well, it's pretty windy today. Look out for falling trees. And she'd no sooner said it than a tree came crashing down. And I thought that was a little too close to the statement to be coincidence. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
And exactly. No, I know exactly how that worked.
Well,
Another
twice
thing.
twice in the last few months, I've been meditating down on my pond. No wind, perfectly calm day, and right across the pond, a big crash of a tree. As soon as I sit down.
Another way that they can give you that answer or whatever is through animals like ravens and owls and stuff.
Ravens.
Ravens.
We got a lot of ravens in the forest where I am, and owls, and I don't know how many times I've said, geez, I wonder if they did this or something, and then a raven will fly right over my head. Haven't heard one all day, and call and make one single call just at the time I formulate the thought, and then
Some weird.
I know they can shapeshift in any form. I've even seen them in human form. Tell you the truth.
But they can also travel in the mind of a raven too.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's either they shapeshift into them or they're just seeing through their eyes. As a matter of fact, I was sitting in my room one night, and I've had some crazy stuff, or beautiful stuff, I should say. I wouldn't say crazy. Where I had it was weird, but I just had a knowing that I was going to be able to see through the eyes of birds. Now, it hasn't happened yet, but they gave me that download or that knowing or whatever. So that was interesting. But another thing is that they do is thought placement. I'll be walking in the woods and I'll say, geez, I wonder if it's like this or whatever. And then I look down on the forest path and there's the answer right for me in a stick language or some other obvious way. So it's like thought, answer, like instantaneously.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the shaman that I studied under, he was in Pine Ridge, South Dakota for 12 years studying. And he said almost every time that his shaman supervisor teaching him, they went out into the fields to pick herbs and flowers. And more often than not, they always witnessed a Sasquatch hiding behind a tree watching them. And the Indians are totally familiar with Sasquatch, totally. They've known about him just like they know the Star People. It's part of their culture. And it seems to me that Sasquatch can identify who's a light worker, who's open to this, who's psychic. And they really, they don't talk about it much, but if you ask them, they know all about it.
Absolutely.
I'm sure all the indigenous people around the world the same way.
They know our heart, they know our intentions, they know what we're going to do. I mean, they're like, with my experiences and with your guys' experiences, I find it sad, but I also find it just hilarious that people think that they're just some big McGilla gorilla running around in the woods. Like, I mean, my God, they're so far in advance of us in many ways that that's just a nonsensical conclusion. Although like we're all saying, we have those abilities, so they are in advance of us, but we're capable of it. We're just not open to it. Yeah.
Have you ever thought how Sasquatch survives in nature, in cold climates, at night, and all of that? I've never heard any specific explanation, but just like other animals, other mammals are able to do it. He's very, very much more adapted to the natural environment than we are.
Well, ask him if he's right there. Just ask him about what do they do in the cold.
You know what he's doing? He's laughing. This is the first time in a long time he's laughing at us. He said, you think it's a mystery, our survival. You don't even question mammals, polar bears, reindeer. They survived. You don't wonder at their miracles, or why do you wonder about us? We have the same abilities they do.
Yeah.
Apparently, we're the only ones that don't have those abilities, you know?
That's
We're
right.
the only
That's
hairless
right.
creatures around, the ones that need artificial environments to survive. Nobody else is like us. That's what they want us to think.
Well, not only that, Fred, but I mean, the reports of tracks in the snow that just stop and would indicate that they're probably being taken aboard or they're changing dimension.
Changing dimensions, yeah.
Yeah, so that means they don't have to stay in the cold if they don't want to.
That's true too.
Yeah. I've often found one single footprint in a great big huge area like of mud or whatever, where, you know, like with our flawed rationale, you would think, well, how would somebody do that? But you know, but those footprints are just left specifically for me or for whoever finds them to see. Yeah. Sometimes they'll leave. Sometimes they'll even leave a glyph right beside a footprint, just as a you know, like it's us, dummy. You know, like not that they think that.
Those are for people who have a hard time reading.
Well, but you know what? Though other people don't seem to find those things. It's the people who are meant to find them seem to find them. But so let me ask you, Fred, is your guy a big fan of the Pork and Bean Show?
Well, you know, as I told you before, he said he wished he could be on this podcast visibly, and he really loves what we're saying. He's in league with all of us. Yeah. And the other thing is, I forgot to mention this. Some of my friends, Dennis, Chris, several other people I know, I got the message that they lived previous lives for a time with Sasquatch in their community, past lives.
Yeah.
And I know all of us have. All of us here have. I know I have, Cork has, Frank, Chris, Dennis. I know we all have. And they say that's something that they relish when people can have that in their subconscious and identify with that. It helps them quite a bit to be accepted.
Yeah. Now, is that just what you're thinking because of experience and just because of who we are and what we're doing, or is that being confirmed by your guy? Because I know I've lived past lives with Sasquatch myself.
No, that's being confirmed by the guides. He said this specifically to some friends of mine and spiritual people. He's really mentioned this. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Can't prove it, but people that feel very compatible with Sasquatch probably have had that as a deep unconscious feeling from previous lives, living with them for a few weeks or something. He's actually invited me to stay with his group for a few days, but I just felt that I would get lost in the woods meeting him.
I think they take care of you. But no, I was talking about something else. I'm talking about actually living past lives as Sasquatch, not just with them.
Oh, I see.
Well,
what does your guy think of that?
Fred, didn't you say your friend Sasquatch had lived as a Native American with us?
Well, no, he was watching. He was very close to the Native Americans.
Oh, I thought he was actually a Native American. I mean, we could have gone back and forth, and there's no reason why we couldn't have lived a life as a Sasquatch, and Sasquatch have lived as humans. But
well, what is your guy?
One thing I wanted to ask.
Huh? Can we ask him? What does he think of that some of us have lived lives as Sasquatch?
You're absolutely right. He's saying that people have been a Sasquatch in previous lives. Not many, but it's just like the concept of human Arcturian hybrids around on the earth and this and that. Same thing with Sasquatch. There are incarnated Sasquatch souls in humans and humans that have lived in Sasquatch bodies in the past.
Yeah.
Just like the hybrids. Call them Sasquatch hybrid, whatever. Yes, you're right. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. And what were you going to say, Chris? Sorry for interrupting you.
You had Pork, you and I have both had experiences of at least possible Sasquatch physically appearing as human beings. And I just wanted to ask Fred's friend what he says about that.
Well,
Do
I know
they-
I've seen them as human beings. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just wanted, do the Sasquatch occasionally shapeshift into human form in our society?
Yes, he's saying yes, and you know what he's also saying, Chris?
What?
That in order for you to understand this more deeply, he wants you to meditate with him, and he will give you a lot more information.
How does he want me to do that?
Well, you know his name,
Yeah.
just meditate using his name every
Okay.
day for a few minutes and ask
Okay.
for communion, and
Okay.
I'm sure you'll get it.
Great. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, I mean, I know for sure because I've had a few experiences like that. I've seen humans doing things when the Sasquatch energy was around and all the magic was going on, and they were doing stuff that a regular human was not capable of doing. So I know for sure that they can. The other thing is I was pondering this thought, even though I know it's true, but I was still thinking about it and discussing it with another friend of mine. And so I think a night or two after that, I had a dream, and you know that they can appear in our dreams, and they're not really dreams. So I had this dream when I'm thinking about them shifting into humans. And in this dream, I saw a Sasquatch person walk right by me and shapeshift into a human.
Yeah, I've had several dreams like that.
When I'm thinking about it. So they give me answers and us answers in a lot of different ways. But that to me was my answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
I
interesting.
wanted to say something about meditation, if I can. This is the first show of Pork and Beans that I've been sitting here and experiencing Chris Leask when he goes in and out of meditation. I can feel him from here. So I just thought that was pretty cool, and I can also feel that the Sasquatch are around, and they're kind of grooving on the fact that that he and I are both going in and out of meditation here. So that's just a fun element to what's going on. We got 5 human beings and 1 Sasquatch live on the Pork and Beans show.
Oh, I don't know. I think RE's probably here too.
I think there's a few others
he's always
around.
good.
I invited them in today, so I hope I think they're here.
I no, personally, I think RE checks in on every one of these shows, or because I can always feel them around. So
Well, I can tell you it's really strange because this is about the 5th time this has happened tonight. Every time you bring up a subject, exactly at the same time, Sasquatch gives me an image, and he must be transmitting his thoughts to you guys without knowing it. Because just as you said that, he envisioned a healing circle of Sasquatch sitting around us all and giving us healing. When you said, is he the only one here? They immediately showed me a circle of Sasquatch sitting in the woods, praying and meditating for all of us. Like you must have felt that before you said it.
well, who knows? Eh?
I know, because when I went out for my smoke, I could definitely close my eyes. I felt one Sasquatch sort of like on my left-hand side holding hands, and another one on my right hand holding hands. And the idea was, this is a possibility to have a Sasquatch, a human, all just like pumping energy into the earth. And there's a lot of power when we get together, and just raise our vibration. That's really all we got to do is stay tuned, plugged in, and raise our vibration, and all rest happens automatically.
Yeah.
In yoga, there's a.
Are you guys all? Sorry, Chris. Hold that thought. Are you guys all into traveling and whatever? I'd love to have you all up here in British Columbia and visit, and we could.
A long ways away.
It's worth coming. We could have a wonderful time.
Well, my brother lives in Washington, so it's not that far from you, right? Are
No.
you in southern British Columbia, near Vancouver?
I'm about 50 miles east of Vancouver. So Well, where in Washington does he live?
Woodinville.
How close is that to
Northeast.
Seattle?
That's northeast of Seattle, about 45 minutes maybe.
Okay, well, Seattle to Vancouver is only about 3 hours.
Yeah.
In a car.
Right.
So, it's not that far.
Yeah, my brother always skis up at Whistler. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, because every year, and I'd love to invite you guys, trying to get Mr. Beans out here for ages, but every year I host. Well, actually, I facilitate. They host it because they tell me energetically who they want to come. But we have a Sasquatch. I call it the RE and family gathering, and have it every year in September, and it's always just a beautiful time. And they seem to do healings, and they have done healings. They've shown up in the physical. They do all kinds of stuff, and they seem to do something for each individual, according to what they feel that they need or whatever. So you guys are more than welcome.
You could come here, as Fred's guy there has said that they want to teach us healing. He do a healing circle here. That has yet, well, they have yet to materialize in front of us to do it, but we could probably do it either place, either here or there, actually.
Yeah, and we could
you
even
ever travel
remotely.
east?
I've done remote healing, so
I'm on the East Coast. I'm in Savannah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They could make the travel a lot easier by picking us up in a spacecraft and bringing us together.
That's what I'd be down for that. A little, 12-hour drive is still no fun for me.
Well,
Yeah.
how far are you from these guys, Frank?
It's about about 18 hours?
Long
10
trip,
hours. 10 hours to Washington D.C.
No, I'm talking about where Frank is. He's in.
Yeah. How far are you? How far is Savannah from Washington D.C.?
No. Oh, that's where you. Oh, Washington D.C. I'm sorry. I thought you meant.
I'm about that'd probably be like a 7 or 8 hour clip. It's not that far.
That's what I thought. So, you're about 18-hour car drive from us.
Well, maybe it's only fair that I come and see you guys or something then, because you guys are all down that way and I'm way up in the
that'd be nice. You could stay. We have room here. You can stay here. Dennis has a big house.
Yeah,
right near here.
So
do you have pork and beans? Do you have pork and beans in a can?
we can. You betcha.
Oops.
All right.
In bean.
Well, Pork, you're not far from James Gilliland's place. Have you been to his place?
I've been around his place. I've been in the area. I haven't been specifically there, but yeah, I've been there. It's quite an area.
Well,
they got Mount Adams there, I think, and
yes, they
kinds
do.
of UFO activity.
A friend of mine out in Eugene, we drove up to what's the name of that lake? Is that Spirit Lake or something? I can't remember. Anyways, Mount Adams. So we drove up at about 11 at night, as far as we could go, on a road going towards Mount Adams, north of the lake. And it was a full moon. We had to stop because there was a washout in the road, so we just stopped. And the energy was so intense that it was almost like we were forced to sit down and meditate. And I'm sure it was the Sasquatch. And
well, there are a bunch of beings in that area. So
there's underground.
James Gilliland always talks about the Sasquatches on his property. The last 4 or 5 times I've heard him talk, he said, "Oh yeah, we got a couple of Sasquatch here, and they just there's a young one." He says there's a young one that just stands out in the open on the tree line, so it's really far away, and it just stands out in the open and looks at everybody.
Yeah, well, we saw a family when we were out in our area. Of course, not physically manifested, but with our mind's eye, we could see the family.
Well, you feel them.
Yep.
Well, I feel them every day, and every time I drive by their I guess you call it their temple or their house or something. The energy is just so strong, and they always send this energy. Not that it's not just energy, but it makes you feel really happy. I mean, it's just so happy that they're there and that they are happy. They're happy that you're here, and it's just an amazing feeling. It's like they're my best friends, sort of.
Yeah, we'd go by and give them a hand wave on the way by.
Yeah, we wave to them, and the vibration is unmistakable. You can feel all the way out. They're in the woods, but you can feel all the way out to the road.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting you say this, Chris and Pork, because the messages I get from ET when they appear, they don't appear as often as Sasquatch, but their emotions are much more mild, much more sedate than ours. Whereas Sasquatch feels just like us, his emotions. And there is really a big difference. And it's just my feeling that because of the planet we're on, which is imbued with high spiritual convergence, that the animals, the trees, the we have stronger emotions than most other civilizations. I don't mean to say it's better or worse, but that's just how we're created. And Sasquatch is the same way.
Yeah.
And the star beings that I've communicated to many different civilizations, they're always very, very mild, almost asleep. It's almost like a whisper. Now you might say, well, that's because they're so advanced, millions of years ahead of us. But I don't think that's going to change the human emotionality as we evolve.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's anything much more advanced than the heart, love. So, that speaks highly of us.
Sasquatch on the air.
Do you guys ever? This happened to me a lot, and we're talking about their greetings. Do you guys ever felt their energy or something, or they hit you with some kind of energy so strong that you just immediately broke into tears and were weeping or whatever?
No, not me. I haven't. I felt their love to the point where I, was just stunned, but not into tears. But then I've experienced that before in other spiritual experiences. So it's almost like once you've had that feeling, once you've experienced that, you don't need to cry the next time.
I guess
when you experience bliss like that, you know what it is. There is no question.
Yeah, there's
no question.
I mean, there's no way to describe it. There's no way you can convey it to anybody.
Maybe I'm just a big crybaby, but I've literally been driving in woods and been completely, not even thinking about anything. All of a sudden, it's
No, I know.
It's rolling down my
talking
face,
about.
and it's just like because the love is so strong and so pure
Yeah.
and beautiful.
Yeah,
But
that's
Yeah.
true. It's absolutely true.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, do you guys want to talk about some of your other experiences?
Talk about being gifted. If anybody of you are getting gifts of rocks or feathers or
Well,
insight.
I've shown you my pictures of my little piles of rocks, and I don't know about feathers. I mean, every once in a while I'll walk through the yard, there'll be a big feather, but then we have a lot of turkeys, so I feel that since I feel their presence all the time almost, and it's such a subtle presence, they don't need to give me piles of rocks anymore. They don't need to let me know that they're here because I feel them here.
I agree with that. They're kind of in your face early in the relationship, being physical, yelling,
Right.
whooping, that kind of stuff. But once they have an energetic and a connection with you in that way, they're not just here to entertain us. So that's what they want. That's how they want to interact.
Yeah, I mean, before they were just trying to get my attention, and now that they have my attention, they don't need to do that anymore. I mean, I think it was last winter. Yeah, it was last winter. End of the winter. I hadn't felt them so strongly, and like I told you in the other show, I just asked, I said, are you here?
I hear you.
One evening, I said, are you around? Next morning, I took my car to get gas, and there was a big handprint right next to the gas cap. And that night I said, was that you? Next morning I come out, there was another handprint next to the gas cap. So,
That's
if
a
you
good
really
story.
need their physical presence, they'll.
Yeah. I found that with my experience, when I have periods of lull or whatever, like lulls, early on, I was thinking the same thing. I was saying, geez, do you guys still like me? Why aren't you doing anything? But I found that every time, no, this is early on in my first year and stuff.
Our insecurities.
But I felt, but I've noticed that every time I've had those lulls, every time that the activity or whatever, or the connection starts picking up again, I seem to be on a way different level of knowledge. It's almost like I'm assimilating what they've taught me up to that point.
Well, about a year ago, my experience with Sasquatch was embellished with the fact that he would bring a companion with him who was entirely human. He was about a foot or two shorter than Sasquatch. He never spoke directly, but Sasquatch told me his name, common human name. And he would always appear with Sasquatch. And I never figured out why that was happening, except maybe to think that this was symbolic of how Sasquatch sometimes shapeshifts into human beings. I think maybe that's the message, as you said before, Paul, that he wanted to tell us. And the other thing is, initially, when I first made contact with Sasquatch, he introduced himself, his wife, he gave me the name of his wife, and his 3 daughters. And if that wasn't beautiful, they all had beautiful names. And I had the feeling that his society was very much like ours, the essence of an ideal human society and family, very much like that, very close family members, very loving, and was really very, very nice. I felt so comfortable that he did that. He introduced me to his family. And if that's the case, you know what we're missing by not all converging with them? Wow, isn't that just great? But I personally think that if we got the right light workers, spiritual people, we went into the woods and meditated on a regular basis, we could probably make an arrangement to live with them for a few days.
Yeah.
I totally believe that.
Yeah, I got 2 things from what you just told me that I'm picking up on. I think that one of them is what you said. I think that person could have been a Sasquatch shapeshifted into a person, and because it's something that wouldn't, I'm not saying you'd be scared if you saw one, I don't think you would, but it's still more acceptable to see. And the other thing that I'm getting is that I think it symbolized brothers, Sasquatch and humans as brothers.
Yeah.
That's what I'm picking up anyway.
Good thought.
Because they always call me brother, and I think there's a literal brother thing, because I think I am related to the clan of RE through past lives and whatever. So there's that, but there's also the universal broader sense of it, like we're all brothers, in the collective kind of thing. So it's kind of a dual meaning.
Now, Pork, when you said that, Sasquatch just told me, he said he wants me to re-emphasize your concept, what you just mentioned. That is so true. That's exactly what he was trying to give us in that symbolism. Just what you said.
About brothers?
Yeah, about being brothers, a big brother being created.
Wow.
I and my father are one, I and my brother are one. That's kind of an old one, but I think that's the fundamental reality.
So even though Frank Oliver Beans is the world's handsomest man, we're all connected, so it's all right.
You can all be handsome by association. Hey, I got a box turtle to this week on Monday. I got a box turtle when I go out for my nighttime walk. It was the sweetest thing. It was actually his afternoon because I could see him real good. And that was the 3rd live turtle that I've been gifted since 2012. And it was just such a tender thing. I knew it was the Sasquatch people because I'm walking along the road. There's not much traffic on my road. and about 3 feet in from the edge of the road was this box turtle there, and it was like inside his little box, and just a little nose sticking out. And I realized that somebody or something had just put him down there, because if he was, just walking along, he'd be extended. So that just was just so touched, because it's a very deeply personal thing that they did for me. Because I don't get mind speak, and I don't get rushes of energy. So I have to wait. I wait, just patiently wait, and they come through every few months with a little something.
We all connected to them, or they interact with us all in different, unique ways. So, we're all nobody's ahead of the other here. They're just interacting with us according to how they feel is best.
Have you ever heard, any of you heard of Robert Maxwell? No, not Maxwell.
Maxwell House Coffee.
No, yeah, not Maxwell. What am I thinking? Robert Monroe, excuse me.
Who?
Robert Monroe.
Oh, Journeys Out of the Body, that Robert Monroe?
Yeah, Journeys Out of the Body, Monroe Institute.
The Monroe psycho-binding mental mind-blowing stuff.
Is that Maryland's kid? Or?
He said that out of the body, when he travels in the lower astral out of the body, he meets all kinds of extraterrestrials. He never mentioned Sasquatch, but I'm sure that's where you can regulate. I think most of those beings, ETs, Sasquatch, they all generally communicate consciously on that level. And we just don't have a conscious ability to get there. We do it in our lucid dreams, but eventually we'll be able to merge our conscious mind with our subconscious, and then we'll be able to communicate on that level. So
Can you imagine a human Sasquatch hybrid going to Las Vegas? How they could clean up? But
except that they're not on that vibration of
no.
They don't give a crap about money and possessions and stuff like that. That wouldn't even.
Yeah, I mean, I've asked them for lottery tickets and they won't give me the numbers.
And somehow I doubt you really have.
That's what's great about Sasquatch. His ideals, his elements of living are totally natural, totally spiritual, and it really engenders us to come on board. Really, because every one of us here and there are stuck on materialism, money, this, and you can't avoid it. And then when you see the purity of his life, it's so refreshing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at the white settlers and the white man tried to do with the Indians. They tried to totally destroy their culture, their traditions, their sacred dances, all that stuff. That's because the First Nations people or the indigenous people are much closer, or lived much closer lives to what the Sasquatch are. And so, can't have that. Well, I mean, we can, but you know what I mean?
Well, I always had, we have a friend named Donna who's half Cherokee, and her father grew up on the Cherokee reservation in North Carolina. And she has a cousin who says he regularly communicates with the Sasquatch down there. But so even the Abenaki in northern New Hampshire, and Vermont, and Maine, and the Micmac, they all acknowledge that they've been living with the Sasquatch for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So
it makes me wonder. Because we got the five of us, and at least Fred and Dennis are talking about it. They're in the open talking about it, at least on this platform. But I wonder how many people the Sasquatch are connecting with that may not realize it or are just refuse to talk about it. I think it's probably more than we think.
Well, I think I told you the first story that I heard on Rick, what's his name? Cundiff?
Yeah. Sasquatch
Anyway.
Chronicles.
Sasquatch Chronicles, the very first story he had on his show was a woman from near Manchester, Vermont. And her parents had died, but she had taken over the old farmhouse from her grandparents. Grandparents had moved into a smaller house down the road. And she started having experiences with Sasquatch, and she had no idea they were there, and she was afraid to talk about it. You know, she thought she'd be called crazy. Eventually she got up the nerve and she said, well, if my grandparents had been here, they must have known about them. And so she confronted her grandparents. They said, oh yeah, we've known they were here for the whole time we lived in the house. So there's a lot of people who are aware of it, but just won't talk about it.
And after she mentioned it to them, did they open up about it, or
Yeah, they opened up about it. Yeah.
And what did they say about them?
They just confirmed that, oh yeah, they've been living there, and you know, we let them, you know, we don't bother each other, and they live their lives, we live our lives, kind of thing.
But did they have any understanding of who they were, or did they have any kind of?
No, I didn't get that from the talk. I'm sure that if it'd be really nice to get her on your show. I had no idea how to find out who she is.
Yeah.
You know, I've written to Vic to get contact names like that, but he won't give them out. So
Is your lady? Did you message her? Is she still going to come on, or?
I haven't seen her. I'm looking at my emails to see if she comes up, but she hasn't. I have a feeling she's just too caught in traveling. Can't get on.
Yeah,
well, I have a different opinion about this thing where we all got to raise our vibration. We all got to become super psychic. I don't think that's the way humans do it. I think humans do it sort of the traditional way where we have a clan of people or a group of friends, and one of them will be psychic and mind speak, and another one might have visions and knowings and stuff like that, and that's shared with the group. I think that there's nothing wrong with us. I mean, this whole idea that we're stunted, right, or that we're behind the ball, or that these other races are so advanced. I just think we just have a different way of dealing with the invisible world and the spiritual world.
So you don't think we can learn to do that?
I absolutely do, but in terms of just living a life, some people are way better at it naturally, and
I agree with that. Yeah.
And that if we were living in let's say a farming community or a hunting gathering community, then that one person would be relied on to do the psychic work, and another one would be to do the shamanic healing kind of work. And I think we're meant to be more of a tribal animal, and because it's been that way throughout history. You know, there's people who are hunters and people who are trackers and people who are the shaman and the wisdom keepers. So, but then they all share. So I think that's probably our natural way. We don't really, each individual person doesn't have to feel inadequate because we're not tuned in to the level that the Sasquatch people are. The Sasquatch people have their ways and we have our ways.
I agree with that, but I still think that the 100 monkey kind of thing and the raising of the vibrations does affect and change people. So I think there's truth to both what you're saying and what we're saying. I think there's truth to both, actually.
Well, you know, when you think about it, this kind of correlates with what everybody's saying. The fact that there are so many TV programs on cable that talk about Sasquatch, even if they refer to him as a trophy animal, the fact is that they wouldn't be doing this unless there was a lot of general group knowledge about Sasquatch from people's sightings or familiarity or stories, just like they have ancient aliens. If they have ancient aliens, it's not just one or two people that have seen UFOs. It has to be broadcast to a large public demand. So I think the fact that these programs are so common testifies to the fact that there have been lots and lots of people that have had these contacts or familiarity with it. And it's being semi-accepted, this and that, because you never saw these programs 30 or 40 years ago. I mean, Ancient Aliens has only been around, 10 years, so 15 years, same thing.
No, I'm not sure if it's even been that long, but for a while, yeah, not too long. Yeah.
I think the Sasquatch are following along the same historical path that the aliens were on, the Star Nations. The Star Nations, they start off being hated and afraid, and then there's some people who are having really strong connections and make friends, and they would there's people who are living with the Star Nations for a while, and then it got into this whole the movie thing was is all they're going to eat you and alien invasion and War of the Worlds and all that kind of stuff, and so there was this big fear thing, and then after Benny and Barney Hill, the Zeta Reticuli people started coming in. Before that, it was all human types. And then after the Betty and Barney Hill, it was like the little Zeta Grays and stuff. And then, oh, they're gonna, secret, they're stealing our DNA and stealing our children and all this kind of stuff, and the cattle mutilations and yeah. But then at the other end of it, that the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research and Excellence, they show that everybody's upgraded, everybody's feeling better, everybody feels good who has that contact. It's like 80%. And so, and I think it's going to be that way. But this is over a long period of time, from the 1940s, 1950s, until now, where the idea of being a starseed, the idea of having contact with the Star Nations is just part of our nature now. Everybody's got it. There's huge, giant groups all over the Facebook of that. And I think the Sasquatch are coming along. We've come away from the killing Sasquatch. We don't hear so much in the beginning about, 5 or 7 years ago, it was killing Sasquatch and hunting them and trophying them, and that's how you prove, And I don't hear that much about killing Sasquatch anymore. And it's starting to become friends of Sasquatch, like the Glag story that's, that guy who's friends with the Sasquatch people. That's coming along. So I think we're in a natural progression of enculturation, and which I think is a good thing. And that's what kind of the basis of what Pork and Bean Show's about, is just to show people that they're not monsters. They're people, and some of them are really, really good people, and they're as advanced as we are, and maybe more intelligent than we are.
Brad, can you ask your guide if he's got any messages for any of us personally, or as a group, or as humans as a collective? Does he have any messages for us?
Well, he didn't specifically give a message, but he's delighted at this podcast, at all the subjects we're conversing in and the ideas, because he's right on board with this. He just told me that if he was directing this show, he couldn't do a better job than you're doing.
Well, you know why that is, because I'm directing it. No, I'm just no, Frank and I
have to tell you that when I go to I went to Chile once as a tourist.
Was it cold there?
Yeah.
Cold there.
About
a little chilly.
Chilly.
And one of the guides, 25-year-old driver driving the car, we went through Patagonia, where they have small sheep farms, and way in the distance, the Andes Mountains. And out of nowhere, this guy was very intelligent, very respectful. He points to a sheep town. Out of nowhere, he says, "You see this town? Everybody in this town has seen a UFO, and one man was taken over and over again by them, made to be a healer, and now he's nationally famous." So I said to my wife, "I guess it ain't the United States." And when I was in Iceland, a similar thing happened when they were talking about Sasquatch and the secret government. They knew a lot more about it than I did, and what's going on in this country. So it really opened my eyes up. If what we're hearing today now with this podcast, I think, for example, when Dennis, a few years ago, Dennis, you went to see your brother in Arizona. Remember?
Yeah.
And then you went to a UFO conference.
Yeah.
I looked up conferences around the country on the internet, and I couldn't believe it. Every month must have been 15 or 20 conferences, none of them in New England. But almost every other state had conferences every month. And that never used to be around 50 years ago, 60 years ago. So I think it's really moving. It's slow, but it's what the population can accept at their level.
Mm-hmm. I was just had a thought. I wonder what the connection or there's probably some beautiful connections between the monks in the Himalayas and the Sasquatch, like the Yeti and whatever. There just must be some, although they probably wouldn't talk about it too much because just the nature.
Well, I told you about the story of the monk I met in Kathmandu, right?
No, well, maybe you did, but let's hear it.
Okay, yeah. I had gone up to Kathmandu. This was 1971, and there was a monk there, and he had replaced a previous monk who had been there 1 year before. And the previous monk told him this story. He had gone up into he used to go up into the high Himalayas, up into the glaciers to try and find yogis. He had met one yogi walking across this glacier with no clothes on. It was like, he had coats on and everything, but the yogi was bare, nothing. And so there's a lot of very powerful yogis up there. Anyway, so once he was up there and he saw a Yeti, and Yeti was like 20 or 30 feet away from him. The Yeti was motioning for him to follow him. And so the Yeti was going along the glacier, and this monk is following him. And they're walking along the side of the glacier where there's a wall of rock. And they come to a door cut in the rock. And the Yeti motioned for the monk to go in the door. Yeti never said anything. He just stood there and motioned for him. And he went in, and inside there was a classroom. He said there was about 20 kids, and there was 3 other yogis there. One was teaching the class, and the other 2 were standing in the back of the room. And so he talked to one of the yogis. He said, "What's going on here?" And he says, "We have gathered. These are the 20 most advanced children on the planet that we could find, and we brought them here to teach them how to change the vibration of the planet using their mind."
Yeah,
and that's the end of the story. But that's so yes, the yogis obviously were working with the Sasquatch or the Yeti. I shouldn't call them. I assume they're the same or similar. And they were working with yogis and the monks. So,
well,
I totally believe that one.
That just speaks directly to what I was saying. That we change our reality through our thoughts and our actions, and we can make our future with our thoughts and intentions. So
right.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful.
Well, as an aside about this, I run a healing circle once a month, and we get 5 to 8 people. Before COVID, we were doing it in person, and literally, and there was no training. Mostly these are spiritually oriented people. And every year we'd have 1 or 2 real miracles. One particular miracle was a woman was going to be hospitalized for surgery with bilateral kidney cancer. We prayed for her. She was open to this. And a week or 2 later, she had surgery. We only found 1 kidney with the tumor in it. So I guess our prayers must have cleaned up 1 kidney. And if you go online and you know where to look, in the Bible Belt down south, they do this all the time. And I've said many times, if we could collect, say, 1,000 people in every town in Massachusetts and pray non-denominational prayer for 10 minutes on a list of 10 people, we'd have miracles every single week. Because I do think, as you were saying before, Chris, they were talking about the best healers, the most spiritually advanced. But you don't need to have any training. Anybody can do it. And we just don't take advantage of it. It's there. It's latent. It's there for a reason, it seems to me. We just don't take advantage of it.
Yeah. You want to hear a healing story that happened at one of my gatherings?
Sure.
Well, there was a lady there. She's a friend of the show. She's called Coastal Check. And she came to my or not mine, their RE and family gathering that I facilitate. And a couple of days in, she was having really serious back problems. And even though she was loving the vibration, she really wanted to stay. She was at the point where she was going to have to go. And all through the time that she was there, her and I, every time we mentioned RE or whatever, we just feel him there, like his energy super strong. And it was like, it wasn't. It was like instantaneous. We both feel at the same time. We both feel it go away, and that's not uncommon with my experience with other people too. But anyway, so we're sitting around the fire one night, and she wasn't saying anything about that she might have to leave, but all of a sudden she was just like, "What's going on here?" And she felt this scan of energy going right up, I think, from the ground and all through her body, and she could feel the Sasquatch people working on her back, and we were watching it as it was happening, and she was just like amazed, and she was animated in her face and describing what was going on as it was happening. And I can't remember all the details, but to make a short story or a long story short, basically they healed her back, and she was able to say.
Wow.
And we all witnessed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great story.
Yeah. Well, I felt that kind of thing too. I felt like energy coming up through my legs and all the way up through my body. And then I felt like I was like Superman for a while. I was running up this hill that I usually can barely make it up. And at one point I was running up backwards. So
Wow.
they can do amazing stuff.
And, you know, there was after I studied with the shaman, he opened everybody up. I was I went to a lot of national parks out west, a lot of dude ranches. We were in Southern California, in Kings Canyon, Sequoia National Park, walking under the redwoods. I felt one particular tree, its energy, its aura, and I walked in and out of the aura. And the last time I walked into the aura, right next door was a fallen down tree. They cut through the trunk to show the thousands of tree rings, how long the tree had lived. And I kid you not, I walked into the tree's aura and I got a booming message, just like James Earl Jones from the tree, saying you're witnessing the history of our people for thousands of years. Now, let me tell you, after you get a message like that from a tree, your concept of trees changes entirely. And the trees in my backyard have given me healings with energy like lightning bolts through my body. They don't talk as loud as the redwood, but they certainly do. And a lot of people, I mean, ordinary people, if they just spend the time in meditating and training and studying, they can all do this. I mean, I think everybody has the ability to do this, and it's just wonderful. It's all love. Nature's all around us. There's a woman I know who's probably the best naturopath in Massachusetts. She's not psychic, but she's very intuitive. She was living in Hawaii for a time, and she told me the story 3 times. She went on a whale watching trip. When I've gone on whale watching trips after studying with the shaman, I can feel the energy of the whale, just like the trees, little lightning bolts when they break the surface. She was on the whale watching when a mother and a baby humpback swam up to the boat, and she couldn't resist. She jumped overboard illegally between the mother and the baby. They were a few feet from her, staring at her right in the eye. And she told me this 3 times. She said, I knew they knew everything about me, the whales. Okay, change the subject a little. One of the channel books by Patricia Corey is about whales. She channeled the whales in a whole book. She said the whale's oversoul, their representative, sits on the Sirian High Council, the governing body of the Sirius star system. That's something like 25 or 30 million years old. And the whales represent, because it's a water planet, sits on their governing body. She said this about 5 times in the book. So I'm sure this friend of mine, this naturopath, must have sensed. They say the whales are much more advanced than us spiritually, just like Sasquatch is. And look what we've done to the whales. We've killed a lot of them, this and that. And they also said that, you know, recently in the Boston Globe, there was an article about 150 pilot whales beaching themselves and dying on the beach. And it says in the book, right away, many whales do this because they want to escape the pollution, the chemical pollution, the sound pollution in the ocean. And they intentionally commit suicide to reincarnate in other water planets which are more pure. And it sounded like another example of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really, when you really open up to all this stuff, it's really beautiful. It's all very advanced and no money and materialism and
Yeah.
Well, remember, Fred, when us four, we were out there and they had us, first they had us do a deep meditation, then they had us stand up and they had us visualize that we were one with the trees. Do you remember that?
oh yes, oh yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I felt I was really inside of a tree. I was just pretty amazing. I was feeling the whole experience of being a tree.
Yeah. Well, I think that if, like I said this before, but to reiterate, I think that if we quit putting ourselves above nature and everything else and thinking that we're separate from it, we're better and whatever, we would have a much closer connection and be able to communicate with them much easier, because we are all together, but we're causing division by thinking that we're something above them and that they're lesser than us or whatever. It's,
That's funny.
Yep.
it's true though.
No, I'm saying you're right. It's just funny that we would think ourselves better than the whales or better than the Sasquatch people. So we have.
We do. That's
we
our
don't have a very good track record, that's for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, I would trust the Sasquatch people with my life, or with things of that nature, or important things, much more than I would most people I know.
Yeah, me too.
It's very interesting, Cork, because again, this is about the fifth or sixth time it's happened tonight on the podcast. Just when you said that, Sasquatch became very intense and said to me, I want you to repeat that message that Cork just said. This is one of the things we're trying to teach mankind about. We're all equal. We're all in it together. We're all created equal. There's no division, no superiority, inferiority. He's very proud of you that you made that message.
Well, I've got good. I feel them. I can feel them. Well, I mean, I've got good teachers, so they're not leading me astray. That's what they told me. So, that's what our Ian family told me. So, that's what I'm going to go with, and it makes sense. It makes sense. I could just feel it inside of me, and even logically, it makes sense. It makes sense in every way that I can think of it.
Well, we are, after all, living in a greed-based culture at this time, and their culture is not that. And that's the basic problem. The service to self, service to others, great divide. And they're in the service to others. And most of the people in this culture are in service to self. And that's highly problematic.
I have a question for you, Fred. To me, we've kind of, as a culture, as a world, as a humans, we rely a lot on the law of attraction. We pray for what we want. We try to envision what we want. We work for what we want. But the law of attraction is on only one side of a polarity. While we're doing all this wishing and wanting, there's like a demon war going on. There's like a war on consciousness and a war on the soul of humanity. Could you ask your Sasquatch teacher, what do they think about the war of the law of repulsion? Because the Sasquatch have the best. They are the best at making people to move people away from them, to get them to run away, to get them to stop what they're doing. So could you ask him something about that? That what we can do to push away this intrusive culture and demon energy?
Well, it's very interesting you say that, because while you were saying that, I didn't get anything from him, but right afterwards, he thought, this podcast is what they want to represent as a way to dissolve the separateness and to create unity by having people talk about their experiences, their spiritual affiliations, a sense of love that higher intelligences have. He said, this is what it's all about. Spread the podcast around. Let them hear what you think. We're not perfect, but this is the way that they want the human race to go. Exactly what you said, Frank. But, I think, just one quick word, one of the responsibilities for dividing us is not just capitalism and money and politics, but it's also the Illuminati, behind the scenes, which encourages this very strongly. And I've read several books that say the Anunnaki, the negative reptilian humanoids that stripped us down from DNA in Atlantis, put an energy barrier around the outer ionosphere, which is dissolving now. But it kept us from advancing spiritually in a very big way. Somehow it blocked the energy coming in to this planet from the central sun universe of God. But it's disappearing now, they said. So they recognized from their point of view that this was a very important strength to prevent us from having. But now they can't control it. It's dissolving and we're advancing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you see the picture I have behind me. I had an experience. I don't know what you call it, a vision or whatever of the war that's going on right now between reptilians and light beings. And I was taken there, and I saw the battle going on, and we're winning. We're going to win.
Where did they take you?
Do you want to hear the whole story?
Yeah.
Well, I had this lady friend, and she ran us through this exercise where, and she's amazing, and it was just an incredible experience. So she took us through this exercise about going to 5 dimensions, and there was music associated with each one. And I don't know what the connection was, but I mean, music, energy, and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And I'm very into music and musical and that, but I don't think it was because of that. It was just that each musical or instrumental selection was connected to something about that dimension. And so I think that what she did, they would run us through 9 dimensions, but we only had time to do 5. And some of the other ones were absolutely amazing too. But it was like, because I don't meditate, and I don't normally have this type of stuff happening. I mean, I've had amazing happening, but as far as when I meditate and I want to connect to spirit guides and whatever, stuff like that, or I try to meditate, I don't get too far. It just seems to come naturally instead of like I try to do it or facilitate it. But this was different. So I was in this, what was it? Was it the 4th or the 5th dimension? I think it was actually in the 4th dimension. So all of a sudden I was taken to this place. I saw myself as a ball of light, an orb of light, of energy. And I'm traveling up this snaky, windy road to this big castle, this big stone castle. And there was a big, huge door there. And I met the gatekeeper, because there's gatekeepers at each dimension. That was part of the exercise. And I can't explain how real it was. Like I was shocked. But anyway, so I'm talking to this gatekeeper, and he asked me what I wanted. And I said, I want to go inside or something, I think, or I want to learn. And he gave me his name, and he said his name was Ra. And he looked like about 7 feet tall, and he was like one of those Egyptian guys, with the big hats and whatever on, and maybe, you know the guys I'm talking about, and those kind of leather garments or I'm not going to say skirts, but anyway, you can picture the classic Egyptian guy, right? One of the gods or whatever, almost. So this guy's name was Ra. I was talking to him for a while, and then he opened the door and let me go inside. And when I got inside, I saw a battle going on, like an invisible line of defense with reptilians on one side, who were gnashing their teeth and were like really, really fidgety and anxious and nasty and spitting and like just totally freaking out because they knew they were losing. And on the other side were these light beings that you're seeing here. And the light beings were on one side, I said, and the reptilians were on the other. And the light beings were shooting holes of energy, consciousness, and truth, like the kind of messages that we're getting from the SASQUATCH and other guides through this wall of the reptilians' defense. Okay. And I just had this knowing that the reptilians knew they were going to lose. They were just hanging on. They were just desperate. And that's why they were so like anxious and so nasty. And they were all this consciousness was coming in through these openings of energy that the light beings were shooting into their wall of defense. And all of a sudden I see this other being walking up, and I was thinking, who's that? Who the heck's that guy? And he walks up, and I see him walking up really, really casually. And he's like one of the light beings, except he's like 50 times bigger. And his core energy, or his light, which is sort of similar to what these guys have, was like 1,000 suns compared to these guys. And I remember I called this guy like a spiritual James Dean, because he just walked up like cool, no malice, no judgment, no nothing. He just walked up and did this job without hate or any of those negative emotions. He just did it because it was to be done. And he just walked up and came close to the line of defense, and he just like shot this amazing, like this huge energy, and it just like the wall of reptilians just parted like the Red Sea. And all this consciousness and love and teaching and energy came through when he did that. And then he just turned around and walked away. And he wasn't like, didn't have a warrior's mentality. He wasn't mean. He wasn't violent. He was just, opening up the consciousness or whatever. And he just like, it was amazing. And this guy's name was O. This big powerful light being. He told me his name was O, or at least he didn't tell me specifically, but that was the name I got telepathically, whatever. So, and each dimension was cool, but that one was specifically cool because it talked about the war that's going on right now for our consciousness and for the light and the dark battle going on. And so it
well, at the
really
very first extraterrestrial I saw in my life was a reptilian who came into my room. This was when I was about 14. And that was pretty scary. But then 2 weeks later, there was a being of light who came into my room. And I almost felt like the being of light came to say, don't worry, don't be afraid. Everything's okay. But your story just made me remember that. It's kind of, that must be the battle over all of us.
Yeah. Well, and the point was to this story is and like we're all saying, is like we've already won. The darkness and these opposing factions are just hanging on and just getting nasty and hanging on by the skin of their teeth. But we're winning. We've won. It's just a matter of time.
So, I want to fight.
Pork, there's an interesting question here. Were the reptilians eliminated, or were the reptilians transformed by the consciousness?
Or repulsed?
Yeah, I heard.
Well, I just seen them part like the Red Sea, and just like, I guess they were still trying in some ways, but this big giant wave of consciousness came through. All I knew was that they were hanging on by the skin of their teeth, and that they knew they were losing, they were going to lose, but they weren't going to just walk away.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So this vision of yours could have been an example of your stunt double coming in. I'm kidding.
Of what?
Stunt double, like in Hollywood.
Spunk bubble.
Stunt double.
Stunt double.
A guy that can perform magical acts, and exercise. Anyway,
I thought you said spunk bubble.
When you were talking about that, my own personal theory, this is just my personal theory. They don't say this in any of the channel books, but there's got to be a reason. The Earth is recognized, humanity on the Earth has been recognized by many, many galactic, intergalactic civilizations, both positive and negative, as being a very, very important special place. And I think one of the reasons that when they say we live in a polarized universe, I think one of the reasons it's polarized, especially on Earth, is to teach us lessons faster. So we can see right in front of us the way not to go, the battle ahead of us. It's almost like a teaching lesson. When we have the Anunnaki, the Greys there, and I think personally, eventually, when we grow up as a race and we transform the way they say we probably will, that in thousands of years, maybe a million years, we'll be the ones to transform them with heart, with love. We'll teach them. Because it says, Patricia Corey's channel books, they say all the time that the Anunnaki and the Greys they transformed out their emotional bodies from their DNA because they blamed their emotions on destroying the ecosphere of their planet, Theta Reticuli. But that's when you think about it, an ultra simple, almost idiotic concept that they did. And now they're coming to one of the most emotional civilizations in the universe to get their emotions back by taking our DNA, watching our behavior. And I think, and they say the Anunnaki, much more advanced ones, have no heart at all. They lack love. Their progression, their spiritual evolution is exceedingly slow. And I just have the strong feeling innately that eventually, instead of looking at them as enemies and warriors, we'll be able to help them as we transform, to show them this is the way for you. You know, I don't know. It's just my own personal feeling.
Well, I agree with you because love is the creator of, I mean, Sasquatch said, these core truths, love is the basis of all of that. And with love, there is that emotion. There's that, there's all those things that these other races you're talking about are lacking. So I think that we are more evolved in that sense, and that we have stuff to teach them. And I think eventually, that is going to happen.
I got some news from the oops. Yeah, I got some
Peanut
news
gallery.
from the peanut gallery. Yeah, Lori Barnes says, "Oh my gosh, I've been getting major energy from Sunderland Sasquatch. This is the first time this has happened. I asked what they want us to know. She said, we're ruining the earth and they're here to help. I asked her name and she said, it's Shri, S-R-I, Shri.
Yeah.
I just looked it up and it says Radiant Beauties. And Lori Burns says, she said we must spread the word. We're ruining the earth.
Yeah.
I will say that I had contact with a extraterrestrial race. This is 30 years ago. And
That's how you lost your hair.
What?
That's how you lost your hair.
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm reduced to looking like I'm looking like Harpo Marx now. It's
No,
like,
no. You know who you look like? You look more like Larry from the.
Yeah, right.
He's
Larry.
huge, right? He's got the.
Larry
Anyway,
cheese.
I'm just.
Larry cheese.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, they warned us that we were ruining the planet, and I will say they never once mentioned CO2 or global warming. They said the main thing we're doing to the planet is polluting the water and the soil. And they said we're doing that through pesticides, herbicides, synthetic fertilizers. They said there's 6 levels of microorganisms in the soil, and all life on the planet is dependent on those microorganisms.
Yeah.
And they said if even one level of those microorganisms becomes extinct, all life on the planet will die.
Well, Mother Earth is or Gaia, or however you want to say it, is a living entity.
Yeah.
So, and so I think at a certain point, but I don't believe this because I think we are going to come through it. But in the worst case scenario, I mean, if it came to that, Mother Earth would just shake us off like vermin or fleas or
well,
whatever.
She may not shake us off, but she certainly would shake things up.
Well, she's going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes, right?
Well,
these ETs also said that they're committed to saving life on our planet. If the humans if they can't save the human race, they'll at least save the environment. Because if the environment is saved, they can always put more humans back on. But if the environment is lost, everything is lost.
Well, you know, in alliance with these concepts, it's known that there are advanced technologies way beyond what any government has, but the Illuminati, you know, the people behind the scenes have developed for many years. And they have zero-point energy, cold fusion. They have a city on the backside of the moon. They don't bring batteries there. They generate it with other methods. And when you look at the 20 government labs, Los Alamos, Sandia, Lawrence Livermore, we never see the products of their research that become public. There is the father of that naturopath that I told you, the one with the whale experience in Hawaii. Father was a research scientist at Natick Labs, which had top secret information. He said he couldn't tell me specifically what it was, but he said years ago they did research and finished the project, and everybody on the project said, boy, this is going to transform the world. They never saw it again. So these technologies, I think what's going to happen is when the cabal collapses and becomes available, they're going to trade in this technology for less sentences, you know, and we have technologies now that can clean up the planet. We don't need fossil fuels at all with these technologies. They have a medbed or celestial chamber that can heal any disease in the world with time traveling your organs 30 years younger, on and on and on. The only thing is it's in the hands of the wrong people. With neo-Nazis from World War II. And I have direct experience with this from a friend in California, San Francisco, who was in a big spiritual group in New York State, a retreat, and they got attacked by black helicopters from this group because they were too advanced doing spiritual healing work, trying to interfere a little in a very humane way in their work. So what I see is that a lot of this is going to become public. But what I hear all the time from Dennis and our friends is that they know that their end is coming soon. They're becoming desperate. They've had the germ warfare weapons, Lyme disease, Ebola, SARS, Hanta, now COVID, which is not a natural virus.
No.
And it may take 50 years, but I think they're going to collapse. And they're going to trade off their advanced technology for easy punishments. And
Yeah.
I think that's going to transform the world. It's already been developed, but it's been reserved for their group and not the public.
Yeah. Well, just like you said, Fred, in Europe and whatever, they're starting to talk about these things openly, and it's not like taboo and like fringe or whatever. So the consciousness of people is switching. People are waking up, and I think even after the COVID thing or whatever, like it's whatever's going on at this point, I think I've seen a change in people coming out of that. They've kind of realized, things and whatever, and are looking at things differently. So I think the consciousness is switching, and I think it's a good sign for all of us. And I agree. I think that these handlers, or whatever you want to call these whatever you want to call them, they know that the end is near, and that's why they're doing all this stuff. It's kind of like they're throwing everything they can at us. It's kind of an analogy like those that I had with that gatekeeper in the fourth dimension thing. It's the same kind of thing, except being played out on Earth. The dark ones are gnashing their teeth and panicking and freaking out, and we're just shooting the light through. So oh boy, I just got hit up. So it's the same kind of thing on in our reality here is what is going on in the war in the heavens, or however you want to say it. I think anyway.
I agree.
Yeah.
Look, well, let me ask you, what would Sasquatch do? Okay, so if how many people have heard the stories of like somebody's walking in the woods and the Sasquatch don't want them around, what do? They start screaming and yelling, throwing rocks, bluff charging, and walk them out, right? To me, that's the law of repulsion. It's like, you're in my space, get out. And we have these Illuminati and the mainstream media constantly giving us a barrage of misinformation, lies, propaganda and every kind of thing like that. And we take that in. It's like they're like walking in our woods, which is inside of our being. We got to have some kind of way of like pushing that stuff out, extreme prejudice of rejection. Reject that stuff inside of us because, that's how they've been playing an inner game of propaganda and lies for 12,000 years, and we haven't really resisted on the inside yet. So I think the Sasquatch have a lot of teaching about how to reject energy that they don't want in their space.
I asked the Sasquatch to take my fear away. And once they take the fear away, that is how you reject it, because they can't affect you when you have no fear. Because that's how they work with fear. Is one of the ways that they work. So if you have no fear and you realize, that it's all just a game being played and that we're above and beyond that, they can't really reach you. So I think that's one of the ways that we battle it. Because I don't have any fear, and I've just got a good overall energetic feeling that we're going to be fine. I just have a knowing. So that's one way anyway. I think that's one of the key ways.
Well, the opposite polarity of fear is anger, right? And one of the things we haven't done is we haven't protested. We haven't protested in a way that connects to our inner being. We haven't said, I don't want to live in a world like this. I don't want to be influenced by people who are supposedly powers and authorities and government and all this kind of stuff. That's completely the most unnatural type of society that there is. We're all sovereign beings. We're all little specks of God.
But I don't know that anger is the way to go about it. I mean, today I was listening on the radio and I was getting angry at politicians, and my Sasquatch teacher says, stop, don't do that. And he said, and I said, well, what are you supposed to do with all these corrupt politicians? And he said, yours is not to punish or to correct them. You're to present the alternative. You're to present the proper way to think. And then those thoughts that you send out will have an effect on all those people.
Because when you get mad at them,
let me make myself clear. I'm not talking about violence on the outside. To me, there's two places in the universe, inside us and outside us. But the reason why you got triggered by angry at this politician is because his actions, thoughts, and words came inside you and triggered you inside. That is where you want to take the fight. You want to take the fight in there. I don't want this politician. I don't want this truth. I don't want this lie inside me. And then that's where you can use your anger and rage. It's to say no. Say no inside yourself, because we're sovereign beings. That means we have a territory, also called the kingdom of heaven. And if you can't protect the sabotage and the liars and the intruders and the the character assassins and all this kind of stuff, if you can't protect your borders, then you're not really a sovereign being. And the Sasquatch are very sovereign. If somebody comes into their borders, into their space, they will run them out. You know what I mean? And we need to be able to do the same thing from the skin in. I'm not talking about the skin out. And this one understanding is the difference between outside and inside. And we're not very good at that because we've been directed to be outer. Everything's outside. Everything's real is out there. But the reality is the main energy is inside of us. When you get your energy inside of us purged and clean and purified and protected, then you have a whole different energy signature than just to be a victim that says, I can't be angry because I'm supposed to be an example. I'm supposed to be the good boy or whatever. Well, yeah, you'd be the good person, but to be the good person who can defend themselves and to defend the energy that you let into your body. That's what trauma is. Trauma is wounding happens from the outside in, and healing happens from the inside out.
Mhm.
Well, you know, as an allegory to what you said, when I have traveled to Europe and I had some friends that met each other in Paris when they were living there, and they told me over and over again that this was 15, 20 years ago, that the method of living of Europeans, especially in France at that time, was they would have a lot of socialized conveniences and their high taxes, but they would get something back for it. And their concept of experiencing positive value of life was to collect enough money to be able to retire, but then to do what they wanted to do, not to collect money, but just so they could enjoy life and live the life that they wanted. That was the purity of the European society at that time. I don't know if it's still that way. And then I compared to what we have in this country, and it was entirely different. And I think you have to look at the oligarchy of the special interest corporate groups in this country really run the roost. No matter what party you're talking about, they establish the norms. And the norms in our country happen to be money, politics, legal issues, academia, and that's it. Zero spirituality, zero what we're talking about here is humanity. And I really have felt when I travel to other countries, especially Latin American countries and Europe and the Middle East, that people naturally feel a little different. They side a little more on the side of the coin in the way that we're speaking. They're a little more spiritual. They have more humane values in their importance of the values of living compared to well, look, we're the biggest capitalist country in the world. And so we identify with these values, but we don't realize they are really subduing us and hurting and providing the so-called democratic way of controlling us. I don't mean Democratic Party, but I mean the way our government and the ruling parties do it. It's just been my experience in running into people randomly in other countries that it just feels differently. And then when I come back into this country through customs, it's a big shock to going back to the American system again. The control, the lack of friendship, the lack of sharing. You know what I mean? I don't know if you can follow this, but I think you really have to experience other countries to feel the difference. Not every country, but many countries that I've visited meet this criteria, whether it's Iceland, Chile, Mexico. I just get that feeling anyway. Even Canada. I've taken several courses in holistic medicine in Canada, and I felt that they were much different than our approach.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, we're really making some really good points here today, and some fantastic topics. How long did you guys want to stick around for? We've really got no time.
My wife is telling me I have to go to bed.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Brian, why don't you do a little sales pitch and ask everybody to join the Pork and Bean Show and do your thing, and then we can be free of that so it doesn't stuck it at the end.
Okay, and then I want to ask Dennis, Fred, and Chris to give a final kind of thing, and maybe your SASQUATCH guy will give us a final message, Fred. But while we're doing that, so yeah, we invite everybody to join the Pork and Bean Show because we have shows like this every week, sometimes more than one a week. And you're all welcome. And all these shows are all, kind of like along this vein where we're talking from the heart and just a totally different look at who these amazing people, these healers, these wonderful people are, trying to debunk the myth of them being monsters, which is ridiculous. And so come and join us at the Pork and Beans show group on Facebook. You can also
we just hit 1,000 members. Yay.
You can also check out my YouTube channel. I've got must be close to 600 videos now, which every edited Pork and Bean show is on there. And I've got 200 or 300 other videos, or more than that, just on my own lessons from the Sasquatch and experiences. And so I welcome anybody to come and join my YouTube channel, and that's called Sasquatch BC, the true story. And yeah, come and join me on YouTube and subscribe if you want. And the other thing, I'm just trying to get my background done here. Hold on, so I can show you something. The other thing is, what's going on here? I'm just trying to get my my back screen to go off so I can show you my book if anyone's interested. Virtual backgrounds. What the heck? Maybe they don't want me to show it to you. No, I guess I can't.
Put that right in front of your face.
No, hold on a second. I gotta be able to get rid of my background.
Remove your background and then show the book.
Hold on. What is going on here?
Tell us the title of the book while you're fumbling around.
That's crazy.
Light beings don't want to go.
There we go.
Oh,
How come I can't get rid of my background though?
Well, you changed your background to the foreground.
Huh. Weird, man. Okay, I'll try to put, I don't know what's going on. Maybe they don't want me to. Anyway, I wrote this. See, you can't see it.
Yeah,
Right. You got to put it right in front of your face and talk behind it.
no, that wasn't working.
No, say something.
It is working. You got him to cover up his face for a few minutes. That worked really good.
That was good. Try to say something, Beans, while I try to get rid of my background here. I can't figure out why that's happening.
Go out and say hello to the Sasquatch people. You can do it in your own house and you can do it outside your front yard and just decide that they're worthy of being friends and find out what it's like to be friends with Sasquatch. It's not that hard. Sasquatch are more than willing to be friends with humans, and whether they do it, you don't have to be living next door to them. You don't have to go in the woods if you don't want to. But if you do go in the woods, do what Chris Leak and his little tribe do. They go out there and meditate and try to get in your heart, and that'll attract the Sasquatch like bees to honey.
There we go. Okay. So anyway, yeah.
Oh, you interrupted me. First you asked me to talk, then go ahead. Go ahead.
So please come and join my YouTube channel, because it's got a lot of the teachings of Sasquatch in there, everything we talk about here and more, and then go into details about my experiences, and I really enjoy making my videos. And this is my book I just did. As far as I'm concerned, it's written by the Sasquatch people, because every download and all the information and everything I talk about is kind of in this book. So I kind of feel that I'm just a facilitator of it, and they're really penning it. Like RE, I can feel his
A Sasquatch story, my life with the clan of RE.
Yeah. And by Brian Douglas Bland. And it's available on Amazon. And yeah. I think it's a good book, and it talks about them from a totally different perspective than most people. I mean, guys like Kiwani and some other people like that have the same kind of viewpoint, but there's too few of these books that talk about them in the light and the good light and who they truly are. So,
what can they do? What can they do to get an autograph copy?
That always makes me laugh.
They got to send it to you or something, and then you autograph it?
Well, I mean, if I ordered some author's copies and just had them here or whatever, and somebody wanted to contact me, but I don't have them right now, I don't know. You work it out somehow, I suppose. I've autographed them for a couple local friends. And actually, I sent one to Christina Schwinn. She's a friend of the show. Remember her?
Yeah, Christina.
Autographed it. And
I think you ought to give that as a door prize for coming to one of your campouts. To say everybody on the campout is going to get a free book with the price of admission.
Well, there is no price of admission.
Well, then you'd have to pay for the book by yourself.
I don't charge anybody for coming. I pay for everything.
I'm teasing you, man. I'm making fun.
But that's funny you mentioned that, because I do plan on anybody who comes, probably next year. I might get a copy and give them one to each and every person. I'll probably be edited again by then, because I'm constantly thinking of or coming up with new stories, and that's the problem with the perfectionist. You know, it's never done. Never done. So anyway, okay. So I got those digs in, or not digs. I got those plugs in. So where should
Chris, you guys don't want to be known, right? You don't want to be deluged with 4 or 5 emails a week. You know, do you have any contact you want to? If somebody wants to reach you.
Well, Chris is okay with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can contact me, or we also I bet you ought to probably get Lori Tran on if she's ever stops traveling. She might be an interesting interview for you guys.
Well, we'll make sure that you mention to her that we missed her and that we would like to have her on, and we will.
Yeah.
So why don't we leave off with every one of you wonderful guests give us a little bit of a last.
And know you're invited. You guys can all come back and bring her with you. So because this is a nice little ensemble, of 2 ghosts and 1 human.
So you guys all want to give your own little spiel, a closing out spiel, and we'll leave you last, because can you give us your take on what you want to talk about, and then maybe your Sasquatch guide, if he wants to leave us with some parting words. So why don't we start with Chris?
Yeah, I don't know what else to say, because we've said everything already, pretty much. I mean,
what do you want to talk about? Who are the Sasquatch people to you? How have they changed your life? Something along those lines. You go a different.
Yeah, I'd say I've been involved in spiritual practices for 50 years, and the Sasquatch have confirmed the reality of the subtler existence of consciousness in a way that nobody else has.
Mm-hmm.
It's just incredible what they are, what they can do, what they can express. And, it's so nice to be able to drive down the road by their place and have them say hello every morning. It's like just unbelievable.
And how do they say hello? Just with an energetic greeting to you?
Energetic greeting, yeah. Very, very strong, very beautiful. It's like nothing else. I mean, I can't even describe it, because there's nothing else I've experienced like it.
Right.
What can I say? I just wish everybody would open their mind to the possibility of Sasquatch, at least try or ask to be friends with them. Explore it with love and curiosity, not with fear and anger. Or, there's one guy I've gone into the woods several times with. He insists on bringing a gun. I say, "Why are you bringing a gun?" He said, "Well, you never know what's out there." I say, "Yeah, but the Sasquatch will protect us." No, anyway. So you have to drop that. You have to drop that kind of fear, that level of separation, if you want to be friends with Sasquatch. Anyway, I'll let Dennis talk.
All right. Yeah. Well, for me, I got involved some years ago with lots of contactees and have had my own guides providing enormous beneficial guidance for the last 3/4 of my life. So Sasquatch is one of the beings who has contributed towards a greatly enriched life. And so I would invite your listeners to tune in and understand that any kind of limiting notions that they may have about reality can be greatly expanded and made richer if they're willing to tune in to their guides is fine, and Sasquatch is, how to say, more available on Earth and a very good one to tune into. So, yeah.
Okay, Fred, and then give your own little take on it, and then if I may ask your Sasquatch guide to give us his final word, we'd be honored, because we're honored to have him on the show. So go ahead, Fred.
Well, he's saying that he's almost stunned at the magnificence of our podcast. It's expressing all the values that he thinks, and he's very proud of all of us to be thinking on the same lines that he does. And he wishes that every one of you would contact him through meditation, telepathy. My personal viewpoint is that I've had experiences with the Star Nation, different groups, but when I speak to Sasquatch, who's much more commonly and frequently in contact with me, it's more of he has stronger emotions, stronger feelings, stronger love, and it's like magic in our day. And I think one of the symbols that he portrays for the human race, just as you've all said, is that he's not only our older brother, and we must realize that we wouldn't be here without the Star people and Sasquatch. When that knowledge is distributed and commonly taught, it'll change our whole aspect of the cosmos and our civilization and our relationship to other intelligent beings. And he's also a symbol of where we're headed in our spiritual advancement. Mm-hmm. And it's a specific example in the people that he communicates with as just like earth angels. This is what we're headed for. We can be like him, but we have to try, we have to push for it, we have to train ourselves, we have to actively engage in the same concepts of spirituality that he's already conquered and had for millions of years. He's an example for us of where we're going. And it's beautiful because he's right here with us, communicating to us. It's much easier to communicate to him than it is star beings or the archangels or the great creator. And he's been placed here on purpose. And so have we. So he's a direct example for all of us. He's like the beautiful teacher in school that all the students look up and worship, like another Jesus Christ for us. And all the great beings that have progressed humanity. Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Jesus Christ. Well, I have to tell you, when I had a twin brother that was doing automatic writing, and he gave me some things that he had gotten on me, and they were very deep. And I went back and got a book out of the library in channeling, and I started practicing. They said, in 2 weeks, you'll commune with your spirit guide. And I'm Jewish. And who is my spirit guide? Jesus Christ. And when he came to me, it was so different than the ordinary concept. It was so real, so different. Changed my whole life. And I think that's what Sasquatch is doing too, in a very humane way. What could be more perfect than Sasquatch? And he's an example to all of us, to the whole human race. And he said he would love every one of us to commune with him. He loves the way our approach, our ideas, our light-working technology, etc. And I think it's been a beautiful night here on this podcast.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. We were looking forward to having you, and I think all our expectations were met and surpassed. It's been wonderful. 5
humans and 2 Sasquatch live on the air. That's
so we should look at somehow having a conference together, or a meeting, or a walk in the woods or something.
Well, I
Either
guess that
east or
would mean
west.
I'd have to come your way because
Whatever.
either one comes your way or four come my way.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, my understanding is the domain of these bad guys is going to be broken probably this year. And one of the things that will happen after it's broken will be we'll get access to anti-gravity craft and travel will be very much easier. So I don't know if we want to wait for that or not, but I believe it's coming.
Hey, Fred, I got a message for you from Lori Burns. She says, please tell your Sasquatch, teacher, thank you. He's helped me bring mine through Shri, and she's my guide. So this is kind of historic. Your Sasquatch helped Lori Burns hook up with her guide, who she now has a Sasquatch guide named Shri, S-R-I, Shri, and they both recognize each other as that she's the guide. I think that's historic.
That's
three Sasquatch engaged and one engaged in this show. That's pretty amazing.
great.
I don't have one. I probably have 5 or 6 here. So
Wow. Wow,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
me too. Ari's my main guy, but I connect with this
main
whole
guy.
family. This whole family communicates with me. So
And I'm feeling some sort of presence here, although I can't specifically identify them.
yeah. Well,
I'm
what
sure
do you
the
say, guys?
Star Nations are here too. They monitor all of this stuff. They got
Yep.
teams of people just monitoring communications.
Yep.
So are you guys Fred and Dennis, are you on Facebook?
No.
No.
Fred on Facebook?
No.
Okay. Yeah, well,
I'm on Facebook, but I've never made a post.
the only reason we're on Facebook is so that we can do shows like this. I mean, we have to be able to reach people, and even though I don't like Facebook per se, you can use the enemy to your advantage at times.
No, that's why
we're on it.
That's where the people are. That's where the ears and eyes are, is on YouTube and Facebook.
I was just saying because I'd like to keep in contact with you guys, but yeah, I mean, we'll figure something out. But anyway,
Yeah, maybe we can have like an open panel discussion once every so many months or something.
I love that. Yeah, if you have more of your friends on the same kind of quality like that lady, definitely we'll set up a show just to to showcase her and whoever you guys are connected to, because your whole crowd there is kind of epic, because to me that moves the ball down the field. There's 4 or 5 of you in your circle that are all friends with Sasquatch, kind of all more or less on the same table, same level, and that, to me, that's the wave of the future.
yeah. And plus we have, like, even when we have just a single guest on or whatever, quite often we'll invite other people if they want to stop in and listen or put their 2 cents in. We can do that too. So we will be having more roundtables. You guys are invited, of course. We will be having, you can basically come anytime, but the thing is, you're not on Facebook, so you won't know when we're doing it. I guess
Well, I'm on Facebook to the extent that I get alerts. So whenever you send out stuff, I get it. I'm saying I just don't interact with Facebook. I don't post. I don't do anything on it other than I do get your messages.
Okay, well, you'll know when we're on if you want to message. I can let the guys want to come on and talk.
Right. And, if you ever, if you ever say, come on the show at such time, I'll invite Fred and Dennis.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry that I had to cancel the first time, but I think that the wait was well worthwhile, and we enjoyed having all of you on for sure. And thank you, everybody in the Peanut Gallery, for listening, and
keep meditating, man. That is key. Because if there's only one way that I know of where you can guarantee to raise your vibration, guarantee.
Yeah, and there was, when we were out there in the woods, Fred and Fred's Sasquatch friend said, do deep meditation.
Yeah, imagine if I was meditating, I'd probably be levitating by now.
You should try it.
Yeah, I don't know. I should. Okay, guys, I guess we'll wrap it up. So
Okay.
now I'm going to do my silly little spiel, and I think Fred heard some of my stupidity at the beginning, and Dennis didn't. But anyway, so on behalf of Port Cunningham and the world's handsomest man, Frank Oliver Beans, this has been the Pork and Beans Show. We'd like to thank our guests, Fred Smith, Dennis Berlin, and Chris Leask. And thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you next time. By the way, if you guys come on again, I guess you got to remember what alias you're going by.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
I think you should all get like Sasquatch mask or something, and just you could just be on the air and
Yeah, or actually just wear one of those slave muzzles that people walk around with, and just put sunglasses on.
Sasquatch loves Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you just
I'll change my name to Larry Fine.
Larry Fine? Anyway, yeah. You guys should get some kind of masks and just come on so we can see something anyway. But yeah, this has been fine because it's a conversation. That's the main thing. Okay, guys.
Very good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for stopping in, and we will see you. Who do we got next, Mr. Beans? You know, who's up next?
we got people. I'll tell you right now who it is. The next is we got Penny Rummel. Penny Rummel. October 27th at 1 p.m. EDT. You and me. Not to miss it.
Pennies from heaven.
All right, guys. Take care. Bye for now.
It's been a great podcast.
Thanks.
You guys did good.
And say hello to your Sasquatch friend there and tell him that we're so grateful he came in, and we appreciate it. See you guys.
Okay.
Long.
Good night. Have a nice weekend.
I'm not like everybody else. 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 I don't wanna live my life. I don't wanna get a job. I won't say that I feel fine. I'm not like everybody else. I'm not like everybody else. Sing it! Thank you.